Here we are. Hey. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome. Here we are, Saturday night. Time for some Zen. I've had a great week. I have a lot to show you tonight. I have a whole new place that I'm doing this now. I moved out of the old room that I was in before. It was a spare bedroom. And now I'm in the septic room. I've upgraded. So flush twice. It's a long way to my office. Good times. Okay, so if you hear any funky noises, you know what's going on. But the room is a lot roomier. That's a funny thing to say. The room is a lot roomier, and yeah, I definitely have some space. And before we get going with the Alan Watts stuff, I have some stuff to show you. So let me go to comments and say hello. Hey, Catlin Kish, you're the first one in. Love, nice. Where'd you go? There you are. Hey, welcome. Hi, nature. Apophysis. Apophysis. Check this out. Apophysis. Interesting. Let's go, man. Yes. Escape your fate. Hello. Yes. Where are you? There you are. Hey, Clueless. Hello. Welcome back. Hello, Clueless. Known by heart. I remember you. Welcome back. Ooh, I like little puppy. Good times. I miss my dog so much. Hello. Welcome. Hello. Hello, Fat Farmer. What is that picture? You guys have the most creative pictures for your icons. It's fantastic. I'm ready for it too. I've got some fire tonight, man. I've got some fire tonight. It's going to be good. Looks spacious. Hey, thanks. Do you see my old tannoys? Those speakers right there. Ooh, there we are. Those speakers right there were I think it was a wedding or a birthday present for my folks in my 30s. I've had them since my 30s. They have the original. Where is it? There it is. It's so hard to see on camera. There. That's called a tulip waveguide. And it actually, tannoy is the pioneer of that. It's from the 20s. And it actually guides the acoustic wave to fold it directly into the woofer wave that's coming off of the cone driver here. And then there's a little compression driver in there. That's a tulip form. The actual waveguide is a tulip form. So they're fantastic. They're ancient. I've had them for decades. And I just love them. So I'm so glad that they're in the room with us. And you probably are seeing that there's some swag there. I got to show you some swag. Hang on a minute. Yeah, Canada. Oh, look at the great dog. I love it. Fantastic. That's a great looking dog. That's fantastic. Hello, Australia. Heck yeah. That is so awesome that I'm on in Australia. Don't I come on with you guys at like 11 in the morning on a Sunday? It's like the perfect time for you guys. It's great. Hey, thank you. Those curtains are from the attic. I'll tell you a funny story. So I had to try to figure out a way to get some kind of background in there because it's just ugly shelves behind there. So there's this case that my wife and I had sitting in our attic decades ago, and then it's been sitting in another room. And unbeknownst to us, a mouse made a home out of these velvet drapes. And so I get the drapes out, and right when I lift them up, like this smell just was, it was terrible. But the curtains are beautiful. And so I got to make this work. So I laundered them, hot water and everything. I actually, for those of you that wonder if you can launder crushed velvet, there's evidence and proof that you can. But they turned out great. I got rid of all the nasty smell, and we made something out of it. And then this desk right here is left over. I found this from my garage. It's an old container store desk, and it's actually stable. My other room, everything was sitting. You guys don't believe this. Everything in the old room was sitting on this desk, but it was sitting between two shelves like a ramshackle sleigh. I had two shelves that I stacked books on. The whole thing was just like floating. And Jenny, when I started it, she goes, "That's going to fall eventually." I'm like, "No, it's not going to fall. It's never going to fall." And it never fell. And so now I've got it all tied in. I bracketed it all in and everything. So it's great. I got lots of room. Jenny's going to join me in Zoom, I think, next week. And so it leaves enough room for Jenny and I to both be in here. so we can join you guys. It's awesome. So I'm really excited. Thanks for liking the digs. I really like the place. And I've got room here if I ever need to put a right board. I could put a right board up there. Be awesome. Hi, Bob. How you doing, buddy? You're one of my favorite people, Bob. You're one of my favorite people. So glad that you're here, buddy. Fantastic. Denmark? Yes. The Netherlands. Nice. My wife has Welsh in her. She's, as she says, part Welshan. And she has German in her. But she has beautiful Viking history. My wife does. Nordic. You can see it in her eyes. My wife has, they are enchanting eyes that my wife has. They stole my heart the moment I saw them. And she, yeah, it's that Welsh Nordic people that are her distant heritage. So very cool. Love having Denmark here. Awesome. Hello. Hello, Biker Chick. Welcome back. Oh, nice. Hey, thanks, Sherry. Thank you so much. I'm so happy with it. I couldn't be happier. Ripple Dip. Are you the one I'm thinking of? Is this Ripple? No. Someone else. Sorry, I was thinking of someone else. Sorry. Hello, Ripple 426. What is it? I wept when you shared your cruise photos. Thank you. That was a beautiful memory. That's one of the last memories I had with my dad and my mom. Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. I will never forget that. I shared a moment with my mother I thought would never happen. And we shared an amazing moment. It was incredible. And me and my dad, holy smokes, what just happened? Why did that just zoom in? Me and my dad shared some wonderful moments too. We had a lovely lunch, a final lunch with them on nearly the last day. I'll never forget. I told him how much I loved them, and I thanked them for being my parents. I love my parents so much, and I thanked them. Yeah, is no words. Yeah, thanks for that wonderful memory. Thank you. Hello, Marcin Kuz MKO 6666. Awesome. Hi guys, welcome again. Yes, UK. Right on. Are you surviving okay? Sorry, I just was kind of teary-eyed. Someone brought up the cruise I had with my folks. So it gets me teary when I think about it. But how's UK? You guys doing all right? Here we are. Hey, Bob. Thank you, Chuck. No one has said that about me before. How beautiful. How could they not say that about you, Bob? You're like one of my favorite people. You're like the nicest guy, and you want to learn, and you ask good questions, and you're sensitive, and you care about life and others. Come on, man. I bet you they say those things about you when you're not around because you're such a good guy. Catlin Kiss, Blue Velvet, the movie could well have a KM Mafia theme. Women is, oh, sorry, you're talking to someone else. Okay. Yeah, Manchester, England. How you doing, Tyrone? It's getting nasty out there in UK. I've seen some of the news reports of stuff coming from there, and it's really crazy. Hi, Fortune. On your way to work. We'll miss you, but I promise you, you can see the recording after you're done. All good. Oh, Prophet. Both my parents are Welsh, never going to speak. I don't know what that means, never going to speak. Hey, Pablo, Formula One, dude. I am actually putting together a Zoom for Formula One, so I'll send out invitations shortly. You're going to be excited about what we're going to be doing. NFL and Formula One Zoom time. It'd be awesome. Hi, Catlin Kiss. Here we are. Okay, anybody else? Right on, dude. Right here with you. I got some swag to show you guys. It's finally in. Check it out. Here, I'll take this out. Here it is. Here's the swag. Check out the sleeve. Here's the back. Check it out. How sweet is that? How do you like that? Oh, and look, here is the short sleeve. Check it out. How awesome is that? Stacy's putting the web together right now. I'm hoping to have this stuff ready for sale. This stuff ready to go in probably like 2 weeks or so. And then I got, I'll show you the embroidery. This is the embroidery here. This is the quarter zip. That's the front. Yeah. And here's a bit, sorry, I've been wearing it, so it got some stain. But look, here's the embroidery. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that work. Look at how nice it is. Isn't it amazing? The gal that does this stuff, she's in the chat. She's one of the group, man. She's with us, man. Not to separate or anything that bad, but she's an attendee. She's here with us. And they just had a brand new baby grandchild. Literally, I was getting the stuff from her, and she says, I'm going to check out for like a week or so because I've got a new grandbaby on the way. And they had a new little grandbaby. So sweet. So huge congratulations to her and her husband. That's fantastic. There will be more information on the swag gear because we're going to have blankets. Stacy's looking into even doing a little bit of jewelry with my icon below like a jewel or something like that. We're working on stuff like that. Baseball caps, yoga pants. It's going to be a whole thing. I'm super excited. And we're putting it together right now. So what we're going to have first are the t-shirts first, which is the long sleeve and the short sleeve shirts that you guys just saw. And then we'll have the embroidery on special order. We're going to get it all organized. It's going to be great. But good news, it's all looking awesome. I'm really excited. Okay, I got to make sure I cover everything. There was like some kind of announcement I had to make. I forgot it. Hang on a minute. Let me see what it is. Where did it go? Here. Sorry. Here. Okay, yeah, that's how I wanted to start. Okay, so close that. Okay. So here. Sorry, I'm a bit discombobulated. Sorry, because I had to do the swag thing. Okay, so that's a good question. Right now, no, but yes. Okay, yes, I'm working on it. Okay, yes, I want to do that. Yes. One of the ways that people do this kind of thing is you have your design digitized and you send that digital image to one of these international t-shirt printing companies, and you can source all organic stuff. All my swag's going to be organic. It's going to be organic cotton. And so you can source that kind of thing. You send them your design and they print it out to order. And so I'm almost 100% sure you'll be able to get it on whatever color t-shirt you want. So you can have it match whatever you would like. So yeah, totally with it. And I'll explain the mythology behind it because honestly, guys, this is actually a whole mythology that I've developed. Sorry, let me take this off. Here we are. This is a whole mythology. And I've gone into it, but briefly, this represents God, the singularity that is and within, that is all things, within all things, animates all things, and brings life into the world. The tree represents nature, as above, so below. So you see the roots, how they form are similar to how the branches and leaves form. And we're the same way. We have our gut here that has all of our neurology, and then we have our brains here, which has all our neurology. And these things reflect one another. They're the same, but they're different. They're the same, but they're different. And this is how nature manifests. And then we have this black and white. This represents duality. So we here with nature are caught in the illusion of duality. Okay, but it's that illusion, it's that duality that clarifies the impossibility, which is the singularity. And so these things work together for harmony, not for disharmony. You follow? As above, so below. So the idea in life is to transcend the bubble, right? Transcend the illusion, the bubble called duality. And we transcend that through nature's principles, which speak to all levels. And so what this represents on the outside here, this is opportunity, the monads, the ether, and the black points are opportunity, and the colored portions in your life are rapture. See how they're random? This happens right. Spontaneity. There's Zen in this mythology. So you have this spontaneous rapture and impossibility that constellates the nature world, right? And is beyond yet within the nature world. You see? And so the nature world manifests through the platonic solids. These here. You see? And these are represented metaphorically in these different qualities of material. the material world, namely earth, water, air, fire. These are the principles, and you can see how it's lined up. You have on the left side, this is all opposite, so I'm looking at the thing, but you have on the left side, excuse me, where am I looking at? Yeah, we have the left side here, which is intuition, which is the mind. Water is the intuition, air is the mind. It can change temperatures, it can change atmosphere instantaneously, right? And then this over here is the action. The right side of the logo is the call to action, the fire and the manifesting of action of nature, which is earth. And then these circles represent all the universes, all the multiverse that constellates our little universe right here. You see? This whole thing has meaning, and I did a whole write-up on it, and I can share more about that another time when we have more time. Yeah? I'm super excited. Okay, so we got a lot of Zen to talk about. And what I wanted to start off with was letting you know, and if it isn't obvious yet, I don't know what could be. But I am an unconventionalist. I am unconventional in Zen, unconventional in my mythology, unconventional in my thinking. This is why I see the world as I do, because I don't see it through the caricatures that the, what would you call them? The KM present to us. And what the KM want is for us to understand the world through conventions. And as you know, we studied last week, the world of conventions is the illusory world, because naming something is not what that is. You can call me Chuck, but Chuck is a lot more than the word Chuck or human being, right? And so you can't put the ineffable into words, into linearity. And so you have to have this unconventional approach to understanding, to understand, to integrate, to understand Zen, to understand the Tao, okay? And so we're going to be talking about that today. I have a 10-minute video from Alan Watts that I'm going to run here that talks about the eye. As people come in and gather, we've got just a few in right now. We're going to get a bunch more. So I'm going to run the video right now for 10 minutes. I'm a little late starting because I got carried away with my logo. And then we'll get going on the Zen lecture. Okay? All right, here we go. Add to stage. Here.
This seminar, called Inevitable Ecstasy, is about a very sticky problem, which is to say, the problem to which the Buddha primarily addressed himself, which is that of agony, suffering. But before we get into that, we have to be clear about certain basics. And these basics have to do not so much with concepts and ideas as they do with a state of mind, a state of sensation, a state of consciousness. And we need to understand that, even be in that, before we can really go very far. And this is an extraordinarily difficult state of mind to talk about, even though in its nature it's extremely simple. Because it is, in a way, like we were when we were babies, when we hadn't been told anything and didn't know anything other than what we felt, and we had no names for it. Now, of course, as we grow older, we learn to differentiate one thing from another, one event from another, and above all, ourselves from everything else. Well and good, provided you don't lose the foundations. Just as mountains are differentiated, but they're all based on the earth, so the multiple things of this world are differentiated. But they have, as it were, a basis. There is no word for that basis, not really. because words are only for distinction. And so there can't really be a word, not even an idea, of the non-distinction. We can feel it, but we can't think it. But we don't feel it like an object. You feel you're alive. You feel you're conscious, but you don't know what consciousness is, because consciousness is present in every conceivable kind of experience. It's like the space in which we live, which is everywhere. It's like a fish being in water, and presumably a fish doesn't know it's in the water, because it never goes out. A bird presumably knows nothing of the air, and we really know nothing of consciousness, and we pretend space isn't there. So, however, when you grow up and become fascinated, which is really the right word, spellbound, enchanted, by all the things that adults wave at you, you forget the background. And you come to think that all the distinctions which you've been learning are the supremely important things to be concerned with. You become hypnotized. And so when we are told to pay attention to what matters, we get stuck with it, and that's what in Buddhism is called attachment. Attachment doesn't mean that you enjoy your dinner, you enjoy sleeping, or beauty. Those are responses of our organism in its environment, as natural as feeling hot near a fire or cold near ice. So are certain responses of fear or of sorrow. They are not attachment. Attachment is exactly translated by the modern slang term hang-up. It's a kind of stickiness, or what in psychology would be called blocking, when you are in a state of wobbly hesitation, not knowing how to flow on. That's attachment, what is meant by the Sanskrit word klesha. So we get a hang-up on all the various things that we're told as we grow up by our parents, our aunts and uncles, our teachers, by our peer group. And the first thing that everybody wants to tell us is the difference between ourselves and the rest of the world, and between those actions which are voluntary and those which are involuntary, what we do on the one hand and what happens to us on the other. And this is, of course, immensely confusing to a small child, because it's told to do all sorts of things that are really supposed to happen, like going to sleep, like having bowel movements, like loving people, like not blushing, stopping being anxious, and all sorts of things like that. So what happens is this. The child is told in sum that we, your parents, elders and betters, command you to do what will please us only if you do it spontaneously. And no wonder everybody's completely confused. We go through life with that burden on us. We therefore develop this curious thing. We develop a thing which is called an ego. Now I've got to be very clear to you what I mean by an ego. An ego is not the same thing as a particular living organism. For my philosophy, the particular living organism, which is inseparable from a particular environment, that is to say, from the universe as centered here and now, is something real. It isn't a thing. I call it a feature of the universe. But what we call our ego is something abstract, which is to say, it has the same order and kind of reality as an hour or an inch or a pound or a line of longitude. It is for purposes of discussion. It is for convenience. In other words, it is a social convention that we have what is called an ego. But the fallacy that all of us make is that we treat it as if it were a physical organ, as if it were real in that sense, when in fact it is composed, on the one hand, of our image of ourselves, that is our idea of ourselves, as when we say to somebody, you must improve your image. Now, this image of ourselves is obviously not ourselves, any more than an idea of a tree is a tree, any more than you can get wet in the word water. And to go on with, our image of ourselves is extremely inaccurate and incomplete. So my image of me is not at all your image of me. And my image of me is extremely incomplete in that it does not include any information to speak of about the functioning of my nervous system, my circulation, my metabolism, my subtle relationships with the entire surrounding human and non-human universe. So the image I have of myself is a caricature. It is arrived at through mainly my interaction with other people who tell me who I am in various ways, either directly or indirectly, and I play about with what their picture is of me, and they play something back to me so that we set up this conception. And this started very, very early in life. And I was told, you see, and you were told, that we must have a consistent image. You must be you. You have to find your identity in terms of image. And this is an awful red herring. A lot of the current quest for identity among younger people is a search for an acceptable image. What role can I play? Who am I in the sense of what am I going to do in life, and so on. Now, while that has a certain importance, if it's not backed up by deeper matters, it's extraordinarily misleading. So therefore, on the one hand, there is this image, which is intellectual, emotional, imaginative, and so forth. Now, we would say, I don't feel that I am only an image. I feel there's something more real than that, because I have a sense of there being a particular sort of, how do we say, a center of something, some sort of sensitive core inside the skin. And that corresponds to the word I.
There we are. Hey, how'd you like it? Alan's the best, man. He was talking about a very important subject that we are touching on right now in his book, which is amazing. One of the awesome things about going through his book is he has so many lectures, and his lectures reflect his books. And so if you learn one, you're learning the other. And so a lot of my learning of Alan Watts came from listening to his lectures repeatedly. And then when I started reading his books after that, it was like, holy smokes, I've been listening to him talking about these concepts. And it is such a great way to learn something difficult, is when you're able to see it with your eyes and you're able to conceptualize it here in conventions. And like he said in the video just now, these are important. Just don't get attached to them, but they are important in order for us to have a dialogue. And that's what I was talking about just before I started the video, which was that in order for us to have a dialogue about the world, we have to put the world into conventions, into words, into a linearity. But words, conventions, and linearity are not adequate for rendering the real world, because the real world is the spiritual world. The material world is actually the hallucination. It's the illusion. And so the idea, and what I'm trying to convey in my unconventional Zen here, is to fully engage and fully enjoy the material world, knowing that it is an illusion. So enjoy it, enjoy the sensorial world, right? What's more enjoyable than making love to your wife, playing an instrument, reading a book, going swimming with your kids, going skiing? Enjoy the world. That's great, but don't get entangled in it. Don't get entangled in the conventions. Don't get entangled in the material. Understand and know that all of these things are coming out from a much deeper realm, and we're going to look directly at that tonight, but they're coming out of this black lacquer world. And it's you can't put it into words. And so that's why we have these conventions, so that you and I can sit down on a Saturday night and we can talk about the ineffable. Right? So this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. And this is why I spend so much time on these slides. So right now, to get rolling, let's add this to the stage. Now, what's the best way to do this? No, because I can't cover up the words. Okay. Now, you guys said last week that you dig when I'm sitting next to it here. So this week, we've got a bit of a doozy opener. So hang on, that wasn't the right way to go here. This. We've got a bit of a doozy, okay? So I want you to do your best as we open up this can of worms, and it is a can of worms, and so I'm dedicating this to Alan, because this is our put your pipe and smoke it, put it in your pipe and smoke it moment. So, and now doing a Western spiritual mind analysis. Now follow the logic here to begin to free yourself from the linear spiritual world, the world of forms, the world of characters. You must free yourself from those entanglements in conventions. And that's what we're talking about right here, conventions. And the entire Christian, Islamic, Judaic world is composed of conventions. This is the bad news for the Western spiritual person. All of it is conventions. There's a deeper essence that undergirds all the conventions. Okay, so looking now with that perspective, in Judeo-Christian traditions, knowledge implies power and control. God, now you're going to follow this. If you were raised in the church, you're going to follow this. God is the ultimate knower. He's omniscient, which means all-knowing. Okay, how many times did you hear that from your folks growing up? God is omniscient, all-knowing, who created and governs the universe like a master governs his estate, or a judge governs his court, or a carpenter governs his craft. I like that. Okay? This is the image that is put into the little Western individual when they're growing up in the Western world. This mirrors Western aspirations. Now follow how it mirrors the way the Western linear mind works. We want to know. We want to know things so to master them. True? Right? Science wants to tame nature. Ego wants to form God. Right? This is how you master God. Put God into a form. Technology wants to control destiny. You see, this is an attempt to master through ideas of the mind what we know. You see, but what do we really know? And what do we really know if we're living in the world of illusion? So by contrast, now follow the contrast. The Tao isn't a knower or a director. How many times have I said to you guys, the Tao is not a boss. Nature's not a boss, right? Nature doesn't need a boss. It's an inconceivable, ineffable flow. The Tao, the black lacquer, the undergirding below the surface illusion, right? It's an ineffable flow, more like a natural process. And it's reflected in the caterpillar to the butterfly, from conception to birth. This reflects this ineffable more so, more effectively, right, than a personified deity. I will know much more. I will know much more about the ineffable through pictures than I am through directives. And what composes the Christian, Islamic, Judaic world? Regulations, rules, beliefs, forms, structures, straight lines, orthodoxy. Okay? Forming God. What does Christianity, what does Islam and Judaism want to do? They want to form God. They want to put God into a form, namely Yahweh, namely Jesus, the God-man. We're going to look at that in a sec. Okay. This is the antithesis, right? The Tao is the antithesis of Yahweh. Please note the unchanging God over all time. That's what that Malachi 3:6 reference is, and the Hebrews 13:8 reference, claiming, basically affirming that God does not change over all of time. Now watch what catch this puts the Christian. Watch what happens. So full on, I remember hearing my dad say my entire life, Chuck, God does not change over time. He is the unchanging God, right? Okay, so follow. Who makes sure everyone knows he, notice the gender, the form has to have gender, right? We're in a linear world. We're in a linear orthodox world, you see? So he, right, rules over the universe that he created. Right? Notice Yahweh claims his accomplishments. Well, see, the Tao doesn't do that. Wouldn't the humble individual, the humble form, not lay claim to its accomplishments? Right? It's a gift. Right? Isn't nature a gift? Wouldn't you see it as a gift? Wouldn't you see your life as a gift? You're a nature creature. Right? That falls right in line. Well, see, the most amazing gift is when you watch someone open a present that you gave them, but they don't know it's from you. That's when the magic happens, because there's no one to thank. There's no debt to pay. There's nothing owed. You don't know who gave it to you. This is called grace. You didn't do anything for it. It's a gift. And look at your life. You spontaneously came about in the conception of your mother's womb. Spontaneously came about, even if you were conception happened in a test tube. Scientists don't know if the egg is going to take. Right? It's a miracle. It's a gift. Okay, and this is what nature essentially has offered you, is this gift, and it's not going to take ownership of it. It's not going to let you put it into a form. You're going to have to accept the gift, just like you would accept the gift from someone at a birthday party. And if you truly love what you've been given, what then? If you truly love it, right? You're going to foster and nurture that gift. You're going to wear it if it's clothing. You're going to use it if it's a tool, right? Okay, so this is important to understand, that it is important that the Yahweh Western God claims his accomplishments and the Tao takes no credit for them. This is basic in the approach, because you see the Yahweh God approach is this Western aspiration, which I show up here, that we want to know, right? We want to control. Okay, so this falls right in line with the behavior of this Western God. Humans must love him alone or pay the price, for he is a jealous God. So we must sacrifice to him, right? Everything is understood through this sin and atonement ideal. So mechanics, gymnastics, straight lines to figure it out, right? Right? So we sacrifice to this God that has made everything, that wants to make sure you know that he made everything and that it's a he, right? Believe in him. Get on your face, because, right, this God wants you prostrate. This God wants you on your knees, understanding he's in authority. And you see, the Tao is the exact opposite way. It claims no authority. It is the experience, the flow, the image, the moment itself. And all of this, remember, nature comes at you all at once, everywhere, all the time, constantly. This is the same way of the Tao. Okay, so you can't control that. So then this is the deep insight. This is really where it really gets interesting. Jesus, or he, if you don't get on your face, bow and ask for forgiveness, all this kind of stuff, Jesus, the God-man, remember Jesus, this is very important theology. Jesus, according to Western theology, is 100% God and 100% man. He's the God-man. Okay, so he's the unchanging God over all of time, and he's the God of form, namely Jesus, who is what? Who is that unchanging God over time. So this is one and the same person. That's the point I'm trying to make here. In Western theology, Jesus is the God-man. There's no difference between the man and God. So he, notice the gender, will be forced to punish. Why? Why is he going to be forced to punish? Because you're a sinner. That's your identity. Here's when we get into the nitty-gritty. Here, that's your identity. You're a sinner. That's how you understand who and what you are, is understanding, oh, I'm a sinner. So this is the facts about me. I'm prone to fall. I'm prone to wander. I'm prone to sin. I can't trust myself. I can't trust the world because I'm a sinner. The world is fallen. I have to believe correctly, so I fall into the correct condition in order to access God. This all comes out of the sin, atonement, separation, forgiveness idea. So identity is known through threat, is known through belief, is known through sin, is known through atonement. These are all attachments. Notice they're all attachments. They're all conventions. Okay, now watch what happens. This is the abuser, the one who says, I'm forced to punish you because you're a sinner and you've done wrong. I have to do this. Woe is me. I have to convey this punishment to you because you have fallen. So the righteous and just thing to do here, because you're a sinner, is put you in an ultimatum, which is you're going to have to accept my grace in order to access my love. How do I access your grace? By admitting you're a sinner, by admitting you're fallen, that admitting you can't do it alone, that you have to have something outside of you because you're broken in order to realize, become understanding. You see, these are all the mechanics. And look what happens. This is the abuser who says just before abusing their victim, I have to do this to you because you deserve it. And it's the only way you will learn. You see what's happening here? So God must righteously send you to hell for all eternity if you do not believe correctly. And this is called a Stockholm's syndrome. This is a psychological condition. The abused, the victim, sees the world through the identity, the eyes of the abuser. So the convert sees their identity through the eyes of their abuser, namely Yahweh, who is saying to them, you're a sinner, who Jesus is saying, you can't get there without me. So the identity reflex of the individual, of the convert, sources from the idea that they're a sinner. They have equated their identity principle to that of the abuser. Therefore, the actions of the abuser abusing the convert are totally fine. They are totally fine because they have identified through the abuser. This is how you get the victim to never leave the abuser, even though the abuser is punishing them. Do you see? This is the classic alcoholic dysfunctional relationship. Classic. And so, therefore, you have these questions to address. Now follow. Now watch what happens. Follow. Does a parent demand their children to love them? Does a parent demand their kids to love them? If I am a loving parent, do I, when little Johnny wakes up in the morning, do I say to little Johnny, you are going to have to love me or I'm going to punish you? Or does mom or dad walk in and say, hey, honey, it's time to wake up. I love you. It's time for a new day, or whatever the case may be. Do you see the difference in approach? The second parent is teasing love out from the child by showing up for them and being there with them and for them. The other, the threatening one here, the Western God, understands love through threat. You better obey, you better love, or you're going to pay. This is inappropriate. And so this unchanging God has this attitude in the Old Testament, but also has this attitude in the New Testament, because it's Jesus that says you're the only way you can get to that God is through me, admitting that you're a sinner. And here we are again, back with the Hebrews being told by Yahweh, you guys are a bunch of sinners, you got to sacrifice. Jesus is communicating the same thing. He's saying there must be sacrifice in order for you to have and experience that love. It's an ultimatum. It's a threat. A loving parent does not do this. Love is unconditional. That's unconditional. And so when we look at the next slide here, look. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Do you see how that's putting you into the mind control, into the illusion? You must, there's the threat. You must love the Lord your God with all of your heart. Can you tell the heart what to do? Can you tell the heart how to feel? Can you tell the heart who to love, or does the heart tell you that? In other words, it's not a choice. So you're in a bunch of trouble if you don't have the same decision that God demands in regards to spirituality, because the heart can't be told. This is how Christianity, Islam, and Judaism disassociate the individual from their heart by telling that individual, counseling them, that you can tell your heart who to love right here. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, even something that can't even be put into words. You got to add that to the mix too, by choice in your mind. And then to finish it off here, with all of your mind. And what is the Zen Taoist suggesting? Release of the mind, release of conditions, release from belief. It's the antithesis. And do you see why it then fosters, it kindles a natural love that comes out from the heart, because the heart isn't being told, you have to love this God, you have to love this person, you have to love this, that, or the other. Knowing full well, you cannot tell the heart what to love. Obviously, I never made a choice in loving my wife. I fell in love with her, and my heart told me, she's the one. She's the one. It's like the first time you ate your favorite ice cream. Your mouth and flavor and brain said, that's the stuff. That's my favorite ice cream, or your favorite food, your favorite color, your favorite artist, your favorite painting. You decided none of this stuff. And yet the Bible wants you to come along and decide, put into mind, put into convention, and lock down to that with no escape. Second question, watch. Does a parent teach through threat, conflict, or through compassion, identity? And look at the verse I used, John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And here's the threat. Here's the threat. It's subtle. And it's meant to be subtle so that it teases you into the con, right? No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, right there, Jesus is saying you are to know God through convention, through forms, namely Jesus. Ideas in your head. And what do we know about the mind? The mind doesn't exist. Reality is a hallucination. There's a deep undergirding below reality, and yet Yahweh, the Christian God, is telling you to relate through that reality rather than through the deeper principle. This is called transcendence. Transcendence. When I transcend the convention, right? I realize a deeper truth that undergirds what I'm transitioning. You see, I'm past it. This is why, again, the great example of James Earl Jones telling Harrison Ford in that movie, it's unnecessary to find out if someone is lying to you. Find out why they're lying to you. It doesn't matter what the lie is. It doesn't matter if or not. The point is, why are they telling you what they're telling you? And this will render the truth. So why is Jesus telling you to align to mind, to align through convention? Because Jesus is the operational psyop of the Bible. This is why the Catholic Church deified Christ, because then you can't touch that character. You can't touch his words, and you can't touch his opinion. He's God. He's deified. So this is how you force, you see the force, you see the screw, force into the mind of the individual. If you are ever going to relate and understand this quote unquote higher power, you have to do it through your mind, through belief, through convention. And therefore I have led them astray. Have I not? If I'm the controller, if I'm the leader, I've led them all astray. You see the truth? This is how it's a very slippery slope. And the whole point of the Tao and the whole point of this here that I'm showing you is to help you gain some traction in understanding just what you are putting your head into. Just where are you putting your mind, and what are you using it for, and how is it getting entangled? And is it getting so entangled that it can't escape? I mean, think of how hard it is to leave Christianity, to leave a Western, to leave Islam, to leave Judaism. Most people, it's impossible. And it's because it's tied in at these kind of fundamental levels that skew your vector early on in your philosophy. So that early on, you're just a couple of degrees off, but you're off, so that by the time you get 2 and 3 years down the road, you've so left the course that you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot. And when you begin to believe in forms, beliefs, and edicts, you've lost the plot of the real world, which is the spiritual world, which doesn't fit into forms, which doesn't fit into edicts, which doesn't fit into orthodoxy, which doesn't fit into straight lines. And this becomes so lucidly clear to you, right, that the integrity inside of you finally surfaces and says, I can't stay. I can't stay, because I am limiting myself with these mind ideas, these verses that tell me to orient through the mind, which is inappropriate. Now, continuing, next slide. Eastern spiritual mind analysis. The Tao isn't a knower, quote unquote, in the Western sense of linear knowing. It's a natural, organic process, not a personified boss. Remember, nature has no boss. It manifests and is everything: stars, consciousness, creatures, seasons, planets, but without any intent, ownership, or plan. Why is that, Chuck? Because the Tao is a flow. Nature is a flow. It's a becoming. There's no start, there's no end. And you're the same way. Did you start at the at conception in your mom? No, you were before that. You were the sperm cell. You were the egg cell. Well, how did you become where did that come from? Who knows? Who knows? Who can say? It's a miracle. It's the same way as the universe. You can't conceptualize its beginning. Stop trying. You can't conceptualize 20,000 billion years from now. Stop trying. Those are distractions. And the Tao is coming in and saying, if you want to understand such a thing, come into its flow. Just like if you want to understand the rapids, hop in your kayak and start riding them. And then you will understand. Do you see? Life isn't delivered in words. It's delivered in experiences. That's why experience is the only truth you can truly know. That's how nature delivers truth. Personal experience. And this is why the idea of everybody aligning with the same mythology spiritually, with the same mythology materialistically. with the same mythology of what happens when you die. This is why none of us are going to have the same story. But it's all within a similar plot. You see, we are wearing costumes. And there is a great unfoldment, a plot-like non-plot that's coming out of this ether called the Tao. And it is manifesting things like this tree here. Look in this picture. This tree grows this branches. Can that tree tell you how it grows a branch? No, it can't tell you, but it does it perfect every time. It knows exactly how to do it. Just like mama, she knows exactly how to grow a baby in her tummy. Can she tell you line for line how it happens? No, she can't put that into words, but she knows it. It's right there inside of her. It's called omniscience. It's right there inside of her. And that's why it can build an eternal form called a baby in her tummy. And mama doesn't even have to try. It happens of itself so. Just like the apple comes right out of the tree branch. Why? Because it does. That's what an apple tree does. It grows apples. Mama grows babies. She just knows how to do it. It's in her. And this is the omniscience that the Tao is attempting to render to you. That you are part and parcel and are composed of the ineffable. See, do you see the bigger picture here? It manifests and is everything. Stars, consciousness, creatures, seasons, planets, but without intent, ownership, or plans. There's no intention. It's a flow. Does a stream have intention as it flows down the mountain? Does a cloud have intention as it grows in the sky? There's no intention there. You see, but it intentionally does that. The tree does it anyway. The cloud does it anyway. The stream does it anyway. That's what it does. And what do? You flow in a stream of consciousness. That's what you do. And you experience life in the world. And you bring that experience to others, to the spiritual world, to yourself, and grow. And grow. What is a greater aspiration as a human being than to grow in your discernment, to grow in your understanding, to grow in your light that you shine to others? What could possibly be a greater calling as a human being than that? Bringing your art to the world, sharing that love and beauty with the world, and bettering the world from this ineffable that's coming out inside of you. You don't know how. That's the juice. If you want to find fulfillment in life, chase your art. Chase that which is coming out of you that you can't stop. In the same way the love for my wife just comes out of me. The love for my children just comes out of me. This isn't something that I'm telling with intention. I don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, today I'm going to love Jenny. That's not how it works. It comes out. It's not a decision. And this is what the Tao is rendering to you everywhere you look. The Tao sustains effortlessly, like gravity or water flowing downhill. It never demands obedience. It never takes credit. The Tao unifies everything in a seamless, interdependent flow without intention, just like the stream. Like a dance, the Tao has no destination. It isn't going anywhere and isn't making anything. It isn't to be worshipped, and it has no set form. It is to be experienced, enjoyed, and fostered. Do you see? It's a totally different approach, this whole Zen thing. It is a totally different approach. Next slide. God's self-knowing versus the Tao's mystery. Now see, look at these two juxtapositions I put here. I've got this growing black lacquer that's coming out of the center of the hole on the right, and then I have the counterpoint. What comes out of the blackness, the black lacquer here on the left, is my logo, which is the mythology of humankind, nature, God as center, the world of dualism, the world of opportunity and the ether, the world of the Platonic solids. This is what is coming out of this ineffable. In the usual Western conception, God is also self-knowing, transparent through and through to his own understanding, the image of what man would like to be. The conscious ruler and controller, right? Do you feel it? The absolute dictator in his own mind and body, right? The controller. But in contrast with this, the Tao is through and through mysterious and dark, Swan. As a Zen Buddhist said of it in later times, there is one thing. Above, it supports heaven. Below, it supports earth. It is black like lacquer, always actively functioning. The Tao's swan means profound mystery or darkness, but not literal obscurity. Follow that, be sensitive to the subtle differences, but not literal obscurity. It's an ungraspable essence, like the ether, or trying to recall your existence pre-birth, or the subconscious mind's death. Swan, that's the blackness, is eternally nameless and darkly visible. It's not unknowable in a frustrating way. Follow. It is not unknowable in a frustrating way, but in a liberating one. Notice the difference. It's not to be feared. Here's the big difference between this and Yahweh. The Tao does not want you to fear it because it has no form, it has no image. There's no thought like that there. It is past such a thing. So the approach is apophatic, you see, not what you know, but what you do not know. This is the major difference between this and the Western God, right? We get to know the Western God through conventions, that which is known. It tells you, the Bible is telling you, it's not asking. Whereas the Zen Buddhist is asking you. It's not telling you. The Zen Buddhist, the Buddhism, Zen is not telling you anything. It's proposing, offering suggestions, giving you ideas. It is having a conversation with you. What is the humane way to interact with someone? Conversation, give and take, back and forth. It is not the humane way to interact with someone as I'll be your friend and I'm going to tell you what to do, what to believe, what to think, and so on and so forth. That's not a friend. You see that it is a total, you got to see these different psychologies, these two ways of understanding foment. Okay, this is liberation. That's why I said asking the question. This is liberation. The Taoist suggestion is accepting life, a nameless void, as a mystery to experience rather than a race to win or prophecy to fulfill. This frees the mind. You see how it frees? Because it's not a race anymore. It's no longer a prophecy that has to happen. This frees the mind from the need to control everything, like choosing correctly or ensuring security, right? That's why the Christian is committing, man. They're securing their eternity. They know, man, I'm going to heaven. I'm on the right side. Do you see how they're lost in convention? The Tao invites a sense of humility. Here's that humility again that doesn't exist in Yahweh. A sense of humility towards the world rather than a need to conquer it, right? Rule it or take dominion over it, which is conflict. I talk about this in my book. It's called Dominator Culture. While Western theology might see God as the final arbiter, creator, judge, and prevailer, Taoism views the dark beneath everything, that's that ineffable, as a means to freedom and opportunity, not relations and subservience. Do you see the difference? To discover it, wait, I can't read all that. Go to sorry, here I am. The left-hand path, the way of non-convention, the way of the rogue, not the way of the scholar, not the right-hand path, which is your typical societal integration. You go through your education and schooling. You learn to understand through subservience. That's why they have you sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, taking in the edicts. It's the same way the Bible communicates, right? And so they're setting you up. You are set up in the right-hand path to follow this subservient, obedient, compliant way. So then you graduate high school. You then go get your degree. You got to go to college. You're going to get more. Here's more conforming, more parroting. Go to college, learn their conventions, stay in it, keep going, get your master's degree, then finally get a PhD, right? Then you graduate. Now you're going to teach others all of this programming that you have spent your life in, meaning you never thought for yourself. You never took your own initiative. You always took the initiative handed to you, the options handed to you. doing as you're told, getting in line, working in a queue, following and pursuing someone else's dreams. This is the right-hand path, the way of convention, the way of society, and the way you learn the unconventional, the undergirding of this right-hand path. Right? What is undergirding even that? The way of understanding that is through non-convention, and this is the way of the left-hand path. This is the work of Joseph Campbell. I'll show it larger here. We're going to go quarter by quarter, and I'm going to express to you my personal experience with this left-hand path. Okay, now Joe Campbell, hang on, let me get it back here. Now, Joe Campbell developed what he called the monomyth. And the monomyth is the way of the hero. The hero is the one who is willing to walk away from the right-hand path, who is willing to leave the ways of convention, who is willing to be disobedient, who is willing to no longer stay on their knees, but stand on their feet, choose and decide for themselves, not be directed, but choose their own course. This is called the way of the hero because it takes a hero to do that in this society. Because what happens when you leave the ways of conventions in this society? You are ostracized because you are not thinking the way society has accepted. This is what the scientist faces when they find out the jabs were poison. The conventional scientist, and when they realize my experience is telling me a deeper truth than what the authority that made these vax is telling me. And it's the same thing with the Bible. My experience is telling me it's not a really good idea to align through external thoughts and mental conceptions. That's not a good idea to entangle myself in convention. So what the Bible is telling me to do is not humane in the same way what the authority that made the jabs is telling me in regards to my immune system. These are the same patterns of deceit. And so there is a way to see this clearly, and that is through the monomyth as Dr. Campbell rendered to us. Now let's look at okay, so this is the way of the hero, the way of the rogue. First step, what happens? And this is what happens to us all. The hero starts off, call to adventure, top left right there. The hero starts off in a mundane situation, right? He's following the right-hand path. He's doing as he's told. He's obeying. He's following the conventions. He's going to church. He's praying the right prayers. He's got the right accountability partners, right? Right? He's going along. The mundane commonness, the common man. Normality from which some information is received that acts as a call to head off into the unknown. Now, why on earth? Why would this person who's chilling and hanging out going the right-hand path, they got their degree, they got their salary, they got their family, they got their kids, they got their car, they got their house, they got their retirement. They got it set, man. Why would they leave that? Why leave? That's what I had. I had a great job, great salary, retirement, great job, loved people that I worked with, loved my dad, my family, had a house, the whole thing, setting up retirement. Why leave? Why leave the source of all your conventions? Because an unconventional world comes in and smashes you in the face repeatedly. For me, it was death. The Reaper came into my door, knocked, actually didn't even knock, just opened the door, walked in, and just started giving me a beat down. No mercy. Beat down. You're going to die. You got cancer. It's over, pal. It's over. This is what the doctors tell me. It's over. You're going to have to follow what we tell you to do. Do exactly as you're told, or you're going to die. Right? And so non-convention comes in and says, okay, my entire life is now blown apart because now I've got a death sentence. All this stuff is meaningless to me now. Instantaneously. In a matter of 5 minutes being told what the doctor told me. Okay. This is what initiates here the call to adventure. The call to adventure right here, top left. Okay. Now what normally happens, and this is what I never related with, but what normally happens is you say, no, I don't accept this. Right? When the doctor says you got cancer, I don't accept this. No, denial, not facing reality. It never was like that for me. I never got this stage, but many do have that experience. And then what happens thereafter, and this is what happened to me when I met Jedi Master Chen. Once you have decided to go on the path, which I had decided the moment the doctor told me cancer, that's why there's no resistance, I immediately told him, well, I'm going to fight this with Gerson therapy. It's done. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to fight this with Gerson therapy. I've been studying it for 3 years now. I'm perfectly ready. And he said, no, don't do that. You're going to die if you do that. And I've told the story many times. The point being, the hero is ready for the journey when it presents itself, if it's the true journey. The hero's ready. This is a principle straight from Dr. Campbell. The hero is ready for his adventure, her adventure. Ready. This is the idea of the master shows up when the student is ready. Okay? So when the hero is ready to begin the process of transformation, right? The master shows up. And in my case, the plague shows up. The car accident shows up. The death, the reaper shows up. That's the only thing that's going to get you off the conventional path, pal. It's the only way you're going to get off the right-hand path is if you have life disaster. This is what gets you off that path. The monomyth. Mono meaning it is unique to you because your path is different than my path. My path that I was on to success is different than the Wall Street Journal guy who's going to be on his path to success in the financial world. Mine was on the path to success through the Christian world, through the church. Right? So the only way you're going to leave that solid, steadfast convention, right, is if you get smashed in the face repeatedly. Put almost to death, if not die. Right? Okay, this right here, what happens then once the hero has committed to the quest, consciously or unconsciously, his or her guide and magical helper appears or becomes known. And this, for me, was Jedi Master Chen, my acupuncturist when I had cancer. He was the supernatural character that came into my life. This guy is putting needles into me, and it took all my pain away. What is happening? What is going? I'm not taking a drug, and all of my pain is going away. What is this knowledge? He's able to diagnose me, having never spoken to me. Jedi Master. He has mastered the world of healing. He has mastered the world of the immune system. He is a superhero. He is what? A supernatural aid. And it's going to be the supernatural aid in the story of the hero that's going to give you the wisdom necessary to be able to transcend your next set of obstacles, which I promise you, they're coming. They're coming. The disaster you face during the call to adventure is just the initiation rites. You want to know the truth? My cancer experience was just the initiation rites for what I experienced from 2013 until 2024. Cancer was just the calisthenics. It was just nature saying, can you do it? Do you have what it takes, Chuck? Do you have the discipline? Do you have the wherewithal, the intelligence to be able to walk this puzzle called cancer? Because it gets even worse when you start finding out what composes the world, meaning our trapped world underneath the KM, which I had no idea of at that time. Right? There are many adventures. Understand this. There are many adventures to transcendence. Transcendence is not one round of the monomyth. You don't just get one round and you're good. Tell me what taught you your lessons in life, your best ones. Repeated failure. Repeated beatdown till you finally realized, okay, my approach is completely effed. I have to just start over again. This is where you have to come to leave the right-hand path. And so you're going to need supernatural aids along the way, right here, top left or middle of the left, right, in order to transcend someone who knows. And Dr. Chen, for me, knew. And he pointed me to this deeper essence that went far deeper than the one the Bible had handed to me. And I didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere, and it was 100% spontaneous, because when I walked in his office, my thought was, this is kooky. This is goofy. putting needles in a person's body to help them. This is nuts. That was my mentality. So again, what happened? I get smashed in the face with truth. Dr. Chen comes in and says, there's a much bigger world than what you think, Chuck. Are you going to grow up into it? Or are you going to live in denial, running and holding to your old beliefs? Choice is yours. Choice is yours. The opportunity is there to grow. Are you going to grow or not? Do you see? This is the way of the left-hand path. Crossing the threshold. This is the first threshold. This is when it gets bad. This is the point where the person actually crosses into the field of adventure, leaving the known limits of his or her own world and venturing into an unknown and dangerous realm where the rules and limits are not known. And what exactly are you guys learning about with the Tao? What are you learning? Exactly what it says right there. Right there. I'll even make it bigger so you can see it better. Right there. Leaving the known limits of his or her world and venturing into an unknown and dangerous realm where the rules and limits are not known. And what are you guys right now finding out about the world? How much you have not known about it. How much it is an impossibility. How much it's been captured. Right? You're just being shown left and right now. And you're if you are on the path of transcendence, you are on the left-hand path, my friend. And this is why the adventure is showing you these things to cross the threshold so that you can transcend. That's why. Next, the belly of the whale. This is when it gets really rough. The belly of the whale represents the final separation from the hero's known world and the self. By entering this stage, the person shows their willingness to undergo a metamorphosis. And again, this is the testing of your character. Can you hold the line? Meaning, can you stay sane? What is one of the things all of us have faced as we have learned more and more about the world? Just holding to sanity. And this is the experience of transcendence because it is past sanity. It is insane. Think of a wonder. It's insane. Like if you see someone do an incredible magic trick, like this is crazy, man. This is insane. How do you do that? It doesn't make any sense. This is nuts. And that's exactly what it's like to wake up. You mean I'm not a sinner? What are you talking about, pal? What do you mean I don't need forgiveness? What? What? I'm not to surrender? What? What are you talking about? This is what happens. This is how you awaken. It's not like, oh, I knew that all the time. Oh, yeah, it all makes sense to me. Absolutely. No, man. No, you're embracing the ineffable. There's no getting your hands around it. Right? And this is why we go on the adventure so that we can get a freaking grasp. Add to stage. Next, Road of Trials. The Road of Trials is a series of tests, tasks, or ordeals that the person must undergo to begin the transformation. Often the person fails in one or more of these tests, which often occur in 3. And I see this simply as all the therapies I had to do in cancer, all I had to do to survive financially out here in Washington, having abandoned my entire life's income's work. Survival, figuring out how to solve problems that I can't solve in the normal conventional way. One of the things to be practical about it. One of the things that happens when you grow up in a wealthy family like I did is when the air conditioner breaks, the car breaks down, something, breaks. If you're wealthy, you just call a repairman and it's done. If you don't have any money, you have to fix it. You have to figure it out. And so that's what happened to me. I moved out into Washington, the middle of nowhere. I've never fixed an AC in my life. I've never fixed a water heater in my life. And by God, within a couple of years, I'm outside fixing the water heater all by myself with no directions and no guidance. Do you see? Trials and tests. Can you keep your sanity? Can you hold the line? Can you face not having enough money to feed yourself? Can you face that? And face that and thrive through it. This is the point of these tests. They're everywhere. Remember the guy that crossed the Pacific Ocean last summer, right? And he had that huge ordeal where he had his rudder broke, and you're basically screwed if you don't have a rudder at sea if you get a storm, right? And he has to fix it. He has to. And this is what I felt in the morning or in the night when I went to bed, and cancer's there right knocking on the door, and I'm disobeying all the doctors. And yet I have to maintain sanity, because if I don't maintain sanity and equilibrium, I am compromising my immune system. I have to have intention without intention, because if I go into that situation with intention, that only intensifies the anxiety. The only way I can lessen the anxiety is if I let go. And then I can amalgamate to that which is so difficult to realize. Unconvention, non-convention. Then there are these other steps. You guys are welcome to read that through. I didn't have these as a part of mine. It just wasn't the way that my hero journey unfolded. They're all different. But I never had like to face like this massive temptation thing or worldly pleasure thing. That wasn't what I was dealing with. I was dealing with mental catastrophe, mental challenges, impossibilities, not being able to figure it out repeatedly, how to resolve my anxiety. Do you see? And so every person is different, and how this manifests is different. Continuing, atonement with the Father. This was when I left the umbrella, which was the influence of my father that had shaded me my entire life. In this step, the person must confront and be initiated by whatever holds the ultimate power in his or her own life. In many myths and stories, this is the father or a father figure who has life and death power. This is the center point of the journey. And this is the transcendence that was necessary, right? In order for me to realize who I was, I had to get out from the umbrella of who my father was, because that shaded my identity. I had to leave that space. And this is the picture of the corporate individual who has made a name for themselves. And they have the 20, 30-year history of all these amazing accomplishments, awards, and all these people that they know, right? They have accomplished the material challenge, right? Right? But that doesn't do anything for the spiritual realization. You see, and so it's a different method. You don't realize the spiritual side through all these different accomplishments, all these different accolades, right? That individual must leave those binds, that aura that follows them everywhere they go, that taints their experience, because every time they walk into the corporate building, they're being told hi and brown-nosed by everyone that's around them, because they are the one they have achieved. And so they are in this bubble that is not reality. And so the monomyth, nature, comes along and says, in order to break out from that spell that you're living in, from the spell that is keeping you from an authentic reality and putting you into this materialistic accomplishment reality, if you're ever going to awaken to the deeper principles and truths, you have to leave that space. You cannot have the experience in that space. And that's what I realized personally. I cannot transcend and know who I truly am as long as I am working and living underneath the umbrella of my father. For you, it might be some relationship or some accomplishment or something, whatever the case may be. And so if you're going to see this other side of life, well, you have to leave the life that you're living. What's the Campbell quote? I have to be willing to leave the life that I am having in order to have the life that is waiting for me. You initiate this, and it is here. It is this monomyth that's going to guide you through this atonement with the Father. So there's no fight there with Dad. It was honoring him by saying, I want to have my own identity. And any loving parent would say, please go do it. I don't want you living under my influence. And that's the way my dad is. I don't want you living under my influence. And so I had to leave. It's not that he's kicking me out. He didn't want me to leave. I did this of my own integrity. I wasn't willing to live as a hypocrite, working for a church whose methodology and baseline spirituality I disagreed with. That's the life of a fool. You see? And so the only way out is through. And that is what the monomyth is telling you. You must go through it. And here it is, apotheosis. When someone dies a physical death or dies to the self, that's kenosis. To live in spirit, die of the self, kenosis, to be filled with the Spirit, he or she moves beyond the pairs of opposites. Right there it is, to a state of divine knowledge, love, compassion, and bliss. And what is my logo telling you right here? Moving beyond the pairs of opposites. See that white and black stripe line? You must leave the pairs of opposites. It's in the logo here, top left. You must leave the pairs of opposites. In other words, the world of dualism. This is the experience of apotheosis, the realization of the grail, the realization of the truth that my identity, transcends duality, transcends my ideas, transcends my beliefs. Apotheosis. Transfiguration, right there. Folks, this isn't for Jesus to experience. This isn't for Allah to experience. This is for you to experience. Do you understand? That is why these sages and figures in our history have been costumed the way that they have been costumed, so that you would never realize, actually, that's the experience I am to have to understand apotheosis. Death to the self. And how do I do that? Through great trial, through great pain and suffering, willingly walking into that space without regret, without looking back. The mentality of a wolf, beyond the moral grounds. Do you see? Non-convention. Apotheosis. Then there's some of these other steps, which again, I did not have a problem. This whole refusal of return thing, I actually wanted to come back. I felt a deep inner need, which is why I left Texas, to come back to help people. I said that, I think it was either last week or in Zoom this week. The reason I came to Washington was to help people. It's what I told my wife when we were driving away from Texas and crossing the border. She'll tell you. I told her, I am leaving, we are leaving, so that we can help people, to position ourselves in a way that will help people in this transcendent idea of life. Honest to God, that's why I left. That's why I left. And so I never suffered the refusal of return. Even though I found bliss and enlightenment in this other world, the hero may not want to return to the ordinary world to bestow the boon to his fellow man. And to me, I only thought, well, that's called selfishness if I behave that way. If I realize this deeper principle, if I experience it, and then I just move away to the mountains to become an ascetic and wither away, what good am I to humanity? What good has my life been? It's been a narcissistic experience. I'm just going to have all this great, wondrous understanding, and then I'm just going to hold it all to myself and disappear into the forest. This is why the Buddha said asceticism is a wasted time. You're wasting your time because you're just wasting away. The whole point is to bring the grail, right? To bring the light that you have realized yourself in your own unique way to the world. Apotheosis. There it is. Okay, so here continuing, crossing the return threshold, retaining the wisdom gained on the quest, integrating that wisdom into a human life, and possibly sharing the wisdom with the rest of the world. This is returning from the pit, basically. Master of two worlds, achieving a balance between the material and spiritual. This is balancing it so you don't become too hidey-flighty. A lot of times, or sometimes, people can have some of these spiritual experiences and they get so out there that they can no longer relate to the very people, the very group that they left. And one of the key ways of knowing that you have realized something is the desire, the impetus to share that with others in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying you got to become a public speaker, but at least be sharing these things with your best friends or your family members, to become a light and to share this light, which cost you greatly to realize. Think of, and this is often what I think of how all your mistakes, all the bad choices you made, all the things that you did that were the wrong way to go, quote unquote, wrong way, that taught you your greatest lessons, right? Don't you want to convey those to others so they don't suffer how you had to suffer? I mean, that's the compassionate heart, right? That's the one who jumps in front of the bus, jumps right in front of the bus, to save the child without even thinking about death, without even being worried about death, because that's the point. Giving oneself away. Yeah? Okay, beautiful. That is the model myth. And finally, freedom to live. Mastery leads to freedom from the fear of death, which in turn, this is the great gift that you receive when you face death, which in turn is the freedom to live. This is sometimes referred to as living in the moment, neither anticipating the future nor regretting the past. Do you see? Do you see? Not anticipating the future. This is why this person will have no desire to place themselves into trying to figure out the life that's coming to them, nor will they be sitting around wondering or wanting to be forgiven, because they're not living in regret. They understand that all the mistakes they made, obviously they've made right with those that they hurt, but they were their assets. That's what made them the person that they are today. These are to be embraced. These are to be the assets that you have, that you can bring to the table through your own pain and experience. This is gold to the world, my friend. This is gold. This is how you become a hero to someone. You share with them your pain. I can't tell you how many times on our Zoom meetings that we have every Friday, I can't tell you how many times people come forward and they say, it is because of these studies, it's because of this group that I am able to more effectively face the life that I am facing, to endure the pain that I'm enduring. Empathy, compassion, connection. You see, this is what happens to the hero when they have these realizations, because they know life isn't a one size fits all. Spirituality is a lot bigger than the one handed to you by any book. And it is the person who has gone through the process of apotheosis, atoning the Father, atoning the figure, the form, the idea, the whatever that is directing you, finding atonement with that, and therefore being able to live your own life your own way without hatred, a chip on your shoulder, feeling a sense of debt. You see, atonement with the Father. Do you see? Not atonement for sin, atonement with the Father, your sense of self. Page 18. How do people respond to the Tao? The superior person embraces it fully. The average wavers, the inferior mocks it as absurd. Here's the quote from Lao Tzu on the right. When the superior man hears of the Tao, he does his best to practice it. When the middling man hears the Tao, he sometimes keeps it and sometimes loses it. When the inferior man hears of the Tao, he will laugh aloud at it. If he did not laugh, it would not be the Tao. Do you see the wisdom and logic in that? Of course. He's going to laugh at the Tao because he is so locked in his right-hand path, his right-hand way, the way of the society, the way of convention. And so it's a joke for this person to approach life, for them to have someone say, I'm approaching life from the idea of insecurity, from the idea that you're not a sinner. And it's the sinner, it's the person who has secured heaven, has secured their God and world, who laughs at the individual who approaches life like that, because the person who has all of these things figured out has life figured out. And to approach life in the way of the heretic, in the way of the Tao, makes them laugh because it's so far outside of their conventional thought. Okay, but laughter is a sign of its authenticity. See, there you go. True wisdom often seems ridiculous to conventional minds because it defies logic and control. That's why advanced or otherworldly technology is like observing magic. The phrase underscores the Tao's elusiveness, and the humor encourages the notion of not taking life too seriously. And what did I say about all my Australian friends? I love you guys because Australians don't take life too seriously. It's fantastic. It's how I want to model mine. Taoism thrives on paradox. Here it is: wonder and spontaneity, insecurity, inviting ridicule as proof of its death. Is that not a secure understanding? One that invites ridicule as proof of its vitality. What happens when you ridicule the Christian's belief system, when you ridicule the Islamists' God, right? They can't take it. They're attached. It's a personal thing because the Islamist, the Christian, becomes so entangled in the belief system that it then becomes extremely personal. And so if someone laughs at it, they consider that mockery of the religion and therefore mockery of themselves because they have entangled their identity into the belief system. This is where you get intolerance. This is where you get family members that or friends that can't stand to be around a person who doesn't think like they do. It's because they have become so entangled in their own linearity that they can't handle any other worded world. They can't handle a world that isn't filled with the words that they have integrated. Do you see the brainwashing? Do you see how it works? How easy it is to get caught up in these things? Whereas the West cannot wait to hide under robust certainties, grip an unretractable absoluteness, and revere astute orthodoxy, right? Is that not? I mean, I can remember when that I was like that. I couldn't wait to. I loved hiding under the robust certainties, right? And having this absoluteness, as my dad used to say, you need to have conviction in your beliefs, Chuck, because the mediocre man is spit out of the mouth of God. So have conviction, like entangle yourself in it. You see, and grip unretractable and revere astute orthodoxy. And so entangle yourself in this astute orthodoxy so that nobody can penetrate. You see, this is the person who can no longer learn. They're bound so tightly in orthodoxy and knots of absoluteness that nothing penetrates. The water, the truth, the light can't get in. Inside that ball of tightness is pure darkness. Right? There's no light in there because they are living in the world of absolutes. And we know the world, nature, is not an absolute, whatever it is. For example, a theological professor would never invite his students to spend an entire week of classes doing nothing but laughing out loud, whereas the Taoist sage would enjoy that week of lessons the most. Do you see? The Taoist doesn't see the laughter at the Tao as offensive. Do you see? They see it as completely understandable because it is. This world is absolutely crazy, is it not? I mean, literally, the best approach is insecurity. The best approach is not having a plan and going with the flow. Where is the flow going to take you? Well, if you don't have a plan, you have no idea. And if you do have a plan, guess what? It's the wrong one. And that's what I found out because when we moved, I had plans. I had plans. I had all kinds of plans. I knew what I was going to do when we came out here, had it all set up, ready to go, was going to do it, man. And everything failed. That's required. That was the sad part of the whole hero's journey thing is without my knowing, those were all going to be failures because it's all coming out of my mind, my ideas, what I think I should be doing, where I think I should be spending my time, not where's the heart leading me. No plan. Let's see what unfolds. I mean, folks, you are witnessing it with this channel. You are witnessing it. There's been no plan from the beginning. I just simply showed up and started doing these things. Next slide. Or should we go? Should we take questions? Okay, we'll start there on the next one. Let's take some questions. Let's see if you guys got any questions. Oh my God. There are 600. Holy smokes. This is fantastic. Okay. I have gone to the bottom of comments. And if you have a question for me, please place it in all caps. I am so glad you guys are having such great conversations. Hi, verbal. Life is absurd. Laugh at it all you can. Exactly. Grateful Dead. Love the play on words. Yeah. God laughs when man laughs and vice versa. Yes, exactly. Hi, Kogi Carol. Welcome back. I still love that name. Plans, what are those exactly? Plans, what are those? That's been my experience. Man, all my plans just flushed down the toilet, man. Flushed straight down the toilet. Thank you, Kogi Carol. I appreciate that, love. There you go. That's one way to say it. Here we go. Chuck. Would I be regarded as a spiritual racist if I insisted on segregation of God from evil in the next life wanting to live in a realm populated only by those who love God. Well, see, the problem with that, high verbal, is that it's all one-sided. You know, nature, the world, reality, the spiritual world is a holistic enterprise. You know, it's not one side or the other. You see, because it's the blackness of the sky that renders the brightness of the stars. You know, and your life follows that metaphor. It's your darkest days of your life, the most painful stuff you face, that render the greatest jewels and light of your life. Right? Because those things cost you everything to learn. The lessons that cost you everything, you see, it's a little deeper consideration than one side or the other, because we need both. You see, in this dualistic world, what the world is like after, I mean, it's anybody's guess, my friend. It's anybody's guess. No, anybody that tells you they know what's going to happen to you when you die, they know exactly what the process is, you'll know right there they're lying to you. They don't know. Nobody knows. There are ideas, sure, and there are some really good ideas, sure. But does anyone know? No. Nobody knows finally. Nobody. Even the ones who are mind tripping and going to other planets, going back in time, forward in time, and all that kind of stuff that I share with you guys, those are still just theories, opinions, words, conventions. Have to hold life more loosely. Yeah. I'm curious about your relationship with your brother. It basically doesn't exist. Let me give you a little background on that. This is really going to clue you in on that. Here, I'll leave the question up so in case others wonder. My brother is 9 years my senior. And my father's success in his life happened right in the middle of mine and my brother's growing up. About 18, 19, typically you leave the house. Okay, I was born 9 years. 9 plus 9 is 18. I was born 9 years after my brother. Okay. So understand, all of my brother's elementary school, junior high, and beginning high school, and on through high school, really, because my brother graduated in 79. So my dad was just a pretty much a normal everyday pastor guy struggling to make ends meet. I mean, my brother was born when my father was in seminary, and he didn't have 2 quarters to pinch, man. My dad didn't have anything, man. He mowed lawns at the seminary to help pay for his schooling. He had families who had heard him preach and saw his talent that donated money towards his schooling so he could pay and stay in school. He didn't have any scholarship or anything, right? Old school. So my brother is growing up in that. I don't even exist. My brother is growing up in the midst of all of that, right? And then I'm born in 1970. My dad takes his job that ends up launching him into the stratosphere, meaning he launched it into the stratosphere, in 1971. Well, man, by the time I'm 4 years old, my dad is the hit of the city. Like everyone in Fullerton, California knows who Chuck Swindoll is because he's got the biggest church in the city. And he's on the radio all over the world, right? Okay. I'm growing up then in a world where my father is this achiever, dude. Like he has achieved accolades of his peers. He has achieved materialistically. He has made some decent money from his books. I mean, he's writing 3 books a year, and every one of them is a bestseller. Every one of them, right? And he's doing that every single year. Well, you do that enough, you're going to make a decent amount of money. I mean, royalties back in the day and with books were much more than they are today. Books were more expensive and you couldn't get them on digital back in the day. You had to buy the actual book. So there was actually a publishing world at that time. Just like there was a music world back in the 70s where you could actually make money selling albums. You can't do that anymore. The digital world removed that. So anyways, I grow up about 1980. I'm 10 years old. Okay. Well, my brother in 1980 had left the house and was married, or he got married in 81, 80, right around there, early 80s. Right. And I'm right at that point at 9 years old. I'm entering right into the phase of your youth where like you actually remember a lot of things, experience a lot of things that are not really hard to recall. Whereas your baby years, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4, it's a lot harder to recall those years. So the only thing I remember is just this incredibly successful dad and life that we're living, whereas my brother is being raised basically in poverty, having to like work 2 jobs and having a much more difficult time of it than I did. And so my brother, to give an answer to your question, he grew up in a different world than me. We have nothing in common. It's like we had different parents, because we essentially did. Because my dad was a totally different person, and so was my mom, up until 1971. And then from 1971 on, they're a completely different couple, because now money's no longer an issue. Job and vocation is no longer an issue. Success, accolades, being in your art, doing what you are gifted to do, it's not an issue. My dad is hitting home runs in every one of those fields. So I have a different upbringing. So Kurt and I have nothing in common. Nothing in common. He is hardcore, devout, 100% Christian, like end of the day, 100% Christian. And he had different feelings and ideas. When I got cancer, he had a few things to say to me because he didn't agree with the way I was approaching my cancer. He had an issue with it. And he let me know that, you see. And so, yeah, it's not a, I don't like him. It's a, I can't relate to him. He grew up in a different world than me. It's like like I said, it's like we had different parents. So it's not a feud. It's not an issue. It's just, he is 100% devout Christian, raised by essentially different parents than me, and we have no relationship in our interests. The only thing that we have the same interest in, I think, is football. But Kurt's a highfalutin business guy, loves wearing a tie to work, loves showing up at the corporate setting. These are things that I hate. I hate ties. I hate getting dressed up. I hate waking up early. I do best at night at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. I'm thriving. My brother's asleep. We are opposite ends of the spectrum. So yeah, that's an inside scoop on that. But that's why we don't have a whole lot of relations there. But I love him. I love my brother. Absolutely love my brother. It's just we just don't have any closest. There's no real relations there too. Love you too, Scott, buddy. Right on. Plan's the worst. I agree. Okay. You're welcome, Gail. You're welcome. I love you too. I'm glad you're digging it. I'm glad you are digging it. Do you guys have any questions? You know what, man? I am completely down with you on that. Do you know how I am ready? Oh my God, how ready I am for the flip. I mean, I am so done with the way that things are. Isn't it so disgusting to hear the reports that come out of the behavior of our supposed leaders and authorities, to hear and read and see what they are doing, what they did, and there's no accountability. None. And all the ones that are trying to expose it, the whistleblowers and the ones that are really trying to help humanity, they get prosecuted. They get sent to jail. The injustice is beyond belief. I heard the other day a couple of gals from the island that we all know about who were abused there. There were countersuits filed against them, and they were the ones who suffered the abuse. And the world is so evil. The people that they claimed harmed them are countersuing. The abuser is literally countersuing. And I hear cases where they win. That's not just a case. I hear and have read cases where the counters actually won and put the victim back in jail. So yeah, dude, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the injustice. I have had it. I've had it. Hey, 9mm heater. Welcome, buddy. Glad that you're here. Glad to see you. So, merch. You can't order the merch yet. Here's the merch, you guys know. Here's the merch. You can't order the merch yet. Okay? This is the embroidery. This is the front. This looks super awesome. You can't order the merch yet because we don't have the website up. Stacy's getting it up right now. I have got the design digitized. I'm going to find a company, a printing company that prints the t-shirts, and I will get that done because, man, I've got to have some type of way of sustaining this, what I'm doing here. So we're going to get it up and rolling. Don't worry. We're going to get up and rolling. We're going to get it up and rolling. Okay. seeing if you guys got any questions. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Absolutely, very much so. Yeah, I do esoteric. Esoteric, I tried to make you a mod this week, and YouTube won't let me. I don't know what's going on. YouTube will not recognize you. I don't know why. I have tried different forms of your name to get you to be a mod here, and YouTube won't let me. So I do not understand why YouTube won't let me, but my intention is to make you a mod eventually. But yes, I do. I have a brother and I have 2 sisters. I'm the youngest. My brother, Kurt, he's 9 years older than me. My sister, Carissa, she's 7 years older than me. My sister, Colleen, she's 3 years older than me. And then me, Chuck. That's my family. And then mom and dad. Okay. Chuck, here. Fortune. Chuck, hi. My dad is rapidly declining kidney-wise. I'm so sorry, Fortune. He is praying to his God nonstop. That's okay. That's fine. I am happy you had a good cruise with mom and dad. Thank you. I love you so much. Jenny's a star. I know she's a star. Thank you so much, Fortune. Very kind of you. And I'm so sorry of what's happening with your father. This is ongoing, I know. And I want and wish only the best for you and him. And I hope that your time with him now is as meaningful as my time I have with my folks on the cruise. I hope that you're able to spend some good time with him as he transitions to the next phase. Okay. Here we are. Let me see if you guys got any questions. Hang on. Yeah. Yeah. 2 completely different lives. Completely. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Should we just continue on the study? I don't see any. Yeah, I just mentioned that. I don't see anything here. Here we are. Hi, Esoteric. Part of my hero's journey was the God Eaters series. How did you come across that information? The history, a long search. But I note in the video, I note the videos, the books, the references, the testimonies that I used. Just keep that up. That I used for the video. I list it because I wanted all of that to be transparent, because I wanted people to pursue the subject matter on their own, to not believe me, but to check out what I had discovered. And that's why you'll see throughout the video, you'll see throughout the video, I give links, I give pictures of books, I give names of people, and anything that I missed, if you go to the comments, right at the top of the comments, I list some people that I forgot or couldn't find at the time when I made the video. But that outlines where it all came from. But the main thing was Mike Harris's book, The Khazarian Mafia. And I show that at the beginning of the video. I show the essay that Mike Harris wrote. And that was the fulcrum of the study, as well as the cult of Baal map that Dylan Monroe drew up, where it has like the spheres in the dots. It looks like the Kabbalah. That cult of Baal map, that was enormously inspiring for what to bring about a semblance of the history of humankind, so that when I presented the KM, I could show people through verified history as the scholars understand it. You can follow the theme, you can follow the members of the KM all the way back to the Canaanites, all the way back to the Amalekites, the lickers of blood. You can follow this group all the way back. And I had testimonies from people who were abused by witches who claimed to have families from the Amalekites. And they showed them the legends, they showed their victims, because one of the things an abuser likes to do is to present themselves in this pompous, powerful way. And so one of the things that the abusers would do to their victims while they were abusing them is telling them how much power they came from and the families with which they were oriented. And so I use that information to then trace the lineages. And I even have that in the video where I get into the lineages and how all of this group went from the Levant all the way into British aristocracy. And I show you the trade routes. I show you the methodology. I show you how it happened out of China all the way to here in the West, how it now affects us here in America, how America, the whole thing was put together under the British crown, that people don't know this, right? And so it was just a conglomeration of just a lot of study and then organizing it into a way that people could eat and digest. That was my main concern, was that people would be able to consume the series and digest it easily, much like the Tao, to be able to, once you see it easily, like riding a bike. Once you have realized that balance, man, it's freaking easy. And so I knew if I could present this KM Mafia like riding a bike, people could then take themselves to whatever destiny they wanted to go, because the basic principles were accurate in the study. That's why I did that. Okay. What a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. Shan. For sure, man. Gift certificates for sure. Wow, I had not thought about that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm glad you like it. And the good thing about my stuff is it's organic, and you're supporting members of our chat. You're supporting me. You're supporting Stacy. You're supporting, well, they probably want to not be named, but you're supporting my embroiderer. And she's a great lady. I love her. All good. So your money, in other words, your money is going to something good. It's not going to some corporation. It's going to good things. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, it's Carissa, Charissa. That's my 7-year-old sister. Colleen is correct. Colleen. That's her correct spelling. Yeah, Colleen. And Curtis, Curt, or Curtis. Yeah. And then me. So there's 4 of us. 6 in the family. Mom, dad, right? And then me, Kurt, Carissa, Colleen, and Chuck. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my honor, Lighthouse. It's my honor. I do this because I love you guys, and I love sharing the principles and aspects of my own life that help me to see a bigger world. And it's my honor to bring that world to you. That's what I attempt to do. I didn't have to put up with you, Max. You were awesome. No, dude. There was no putting up, dude. It was a great time. I love you, dude. I had a great time. You did. Dude, Max, it was all good, bro. It was a great time. It was awesome. You're welcome. Here we go. What is this? Here we go. I want to see this. I moved to Wyoming in my early 20s, away from my family and friends. I had nobody to lean on under 1,800 miles away. And wow, that's amazing. They all said I was crazy. I lived my dreams. You did the right thing, Chuck. Thank you, friend. Rims Gutters, congratulations on your new grandbaby, my friend. Congratulations. I'm happy for you guys. So happy for you guys. Okay. Any questions there? I don't see anything. Caps. Parsival. That's Parsival's journey. That is what, hang on. Oh, what is the name? Parsival. What is the name of the author? Parsival. There's a special one that you have to get. What is the name? Hang on, sorry. Think of it. That's it. Wolfram von Eschenbach. Wolfram von Eschenbach. Parsival, the story of Parsival. That's the one. That is the true journey. There's an incredible lecture from Joseph Campbell about the hero's journey that you should take the time to listen to. The foundation forced me to take all the videos of Dr. Campbell's videos that I had posted to my site on YouTube. They threw my channel down unless I removed all the lectures. So I had to remove all the lectures. I'm sorry to tell you, but I used to have them up. Okay. I don't see any questions. Shall we continue in the study? Right on. Outstanding. That's outstanding. Thank you so much. I love you too. Unconditionally. Without any question. Without any question. None. How can we complain about the system world as a result of us agreeing by complicity in current economics? It's the same thing as the abused child that refuses to leave their parents even though their parents are abusing them. You cannot blame the child for their decision to not leave, because they are in the abused world. They understand life through the abused lens, and that's the Stockholm Syndrome lens. And so the abused victim cannot see clearly their abuser. That's why they enable the abuse by thinking that the abuse they receive is deserved. Do you see? You must have compassion for these people. You cannot point the finger of blame at them. It's like the person who is convinced they're a sinner. You can't laugh at them for thinking that they're a sinner. You can't mock them for thinking that they're a sinner, because they really, truly believe they are making the good decision, the right decision. In the same way, the little child who stays with their parent who is abusing them, they think they're making the right decision because this is all they know. This is all they know. And so our approach has to be compassion to the world. Our coin is a true vote. How can we disturb this balance? Yeah, we have to have compassion for one another and understand the world is a world of egregores. Yes, because we've been complicit, but we've been complicit because we've been abused. So the compassionate one is the one that renders the abuse so that the abused victim can see that and then renders them the vision, the truth, the access to be able to leave that space of abuse if they choose to leave. If they choose to, at the end of the day, the enabler has to leave the alcoholic. They may know they're an enabler. They may know it's dysfunctional. They may know all of those things, but they still have to take the initiative to step out the door and leave, to say the hard thing and go. You see? So it's the Great Awakening is not for everyone. It is for people who are willing to change. It is for people who are willing to see a larger world. That's what the great, it is an opportunity. The Great Awakening is not a path, an instruction, a demand. It's a choice. It's a choice you make, and the only way you'll make the right choice is if you choose from your heart, because if you choose from your mind, you'll believe and choose from the egregores. If you choose from the heart doesn't recognize words. It doesn't recognize the egregores. So when the heart is able to render to the mind how it's been deceived, which is the work of the Zen Buddhist, the Taoist, to render that world so that the heart then can come through. In other words, break through the glass ceiling called the mind. Break through the glass ceiling. And so then that way compassion is the one that directs. And this is what the Great Awakening is, realizing this. But one has to make the decision to leave the farm, to leave the ways of convention, to leave the ways of society, because you are not a societal creature. You are a nature creature. And so you follow nature values, not societal values. You are a nature creature. So your values are humanely oriented, not societally oriented. This is very important to understand. Okay? You did not come here to be a societal creature. You came here to be a nature creature and to embalm yourself or to coach yourself or to fill yourself with nature's principles, nature's understanding, nature's awareness, because this is natural to you. You know, and I said embalm in the sense of just wrapping yourself up in the Tao. You see? But not wrapping in the sense of material, wrapping in the sense of amalgamating, coalescing with, riding down the rapids upon with, beside. Do you see? Okay. Okay. Okay, here. Do you follow the companion Bible that Jordan Maxwell references and still have a relationship with Jesus? No. I have no relationship with Jesus, and I do not follow the companion Bible. And if you watch enough of my videos, you will understand why I answer that question like that. I don't have a problem with Jesus. I don't have an issue there. What I have an issue with is clinging to, holding to that idea. There's nothing wrong with loving your neighbor. There's nothing wrong with loving God. I completely understand that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you see, Jesus presents ultimatum within the spiritual world that are non-conducive to growth. They are conducive to attachment. So the teachings of Jesus are to teach you to become attached, not to detach. This is critical. The Buddha is teaching you ways of detaching. That's why the Buddhist goes to unlearn at the ashram. The theologian goes to learn at the seminary. Do you follow? These are two antithetical ways of approach to the world. And so if you're going to follow the teachings of Jesus and have Jesus as the model and form of God, you are going to understand God through method, not through flow. You're going to understand God through plan, not through wonder. Do you see? And so portraying or understanding Jesus through this idea of that's who I'm going to follow. See, you've missed the plot, because the plot is to abandon, to leave forms, to leave conventions, because they keep you conventional. And you did not come here to have the conventional life. You came to have the ecstatic life. You didn't come here to be bored, you know? And if you lock down the idea of God, the convention of God, the understanding of God into a form, you see how far are you going to get? Into an idea that works through threat. You must follow me or you don't get there. Do you see? And so that's the rub there. The Tao is a deeper concept than what Jesus can offer. It's a much deeper concept than what the Bible can offer. The Eastern mind can offer a much deeper pool to swim in spiritually than the Christian, the Islamic, the Judean, the Jew could ever realize. Yeah, not even comparison. I do not use binary beats, but I know what that is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. It is for sure. Invest in gold and silver if you have money. We are all one, Chuck, and you are doing an excellent job here. And let's go, my good friend. We are all in this together. Once we know that we are all stars. Yeah, and we see that beyond this realm. Exactly. Outstanding. I love that embroiled. Embroidered. Yeah, I know what you meant. Embroidered. Yeah, it's not going to be inexpensive because those are hand done. There's a gal in the chat group, and she literally sits down at a machine, and she's got to load all the thread, and she's got to, load in all the computer, get everything laid out, and then sew the whole thing. And the machine takes, she says it's over 100,000 needle strikes, whatever it's called, sew knots, and then it takes like over an hour to do it. And so it's expensive. But as you can see, I mean, look at the colors. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to have a saying at the bottom of the embroidered ones that'll be like this. It's going to say, you didn't come into this world, you came out of it. So it's going to have the logo, but it's going to have the embroidery. We'll have this right here. And those letters will be embroidered. They'll be embroidered into the fabric. It'll be incredible. They'll be a real collector's items. The embroidered stuff is quite fancy. It's quite nice, and it won't be cheap. But it's not because I'm making a bunch of money on it. There's a lot of labor involved in making it. Okay, let's get back to the study. I've been in questions a long time now. Let's get back to the study. So here, add to stage. Okay, wait. Okay, now this is where in Zen or with Alan, I'm not really crazy that he uses the term stupid, but it's okay. We're going to walk through it and you'll understand in a minute. Okay, the philosophy of the Tao. When the inferior man hears of the Tao, he will laugh aloud at it. If he did not laugh, it would not be the Tao. For it is really impossible to appreciate what is meant by the Tao without becoming, in a rather special sense, stupid. Now follow. So long as the consensus intellect is frantically trying to clutch the world in its net of abstractions and to insist that life be bound and fitted into its rigid categories, the mood of Taoism will remain incomprehensible, like we just talked about, and the intellect will wear itself out. The Tao is accessible only to the mind which can practice the simple and subtle art of Wu Wei, which, after the Tao, is the second important principle in Taoism. What is Wu Wei, Chuck? Wu Wei. Watts argues that the Tao, the mysterious flowing essence of reality, can't be grasped through aggressive intellectual analysis. It's true. The mind's net of abstractions refers to categorizing everything into rigid boxes, good, bad, self, other, which distorts life's fluidity. Can you follow that? By putting it into boxes, you're distorting its fluidity. Easy to follow. Such frantic clutching leads to mental fatigue, like overthinking a problem until you're going backward. To realize Tao, one cultivates Wu Wei, a state of non-forcing. This is key. Non-forcing. We don't learn through force. We learn through teasing, where actions arise naturally. Action without action. Intention without intention, which we've been studying since day one. Stupid, quote unquote, as Alan crudely uses here, and obviously in the ironic and positive sense of the word, like a child's simplicity, a kitten's innocence, a wolf's morality, free from overcomplication, echoing embrace of the unknown. Can you see the logic then? Stupid in the sense of the simplicity of a child. It's not because a child is stupid. It's that in comparison to the complexity that is life, it would seem that way or appear that way in words. I just think it's crude that Alan used that word, but that's what he uses, so that's what we'll use. And then there's also the kitten's innocence. You see, it's so beautiful to see the little kitty, right? The little kitty who doesn't know any better. The little fumbling and bumbling baby child who's learning to walk. Right? It's the simplicity, the adorability, the innocence, right? That's attractive. You see, it's the same thing with the spirit. It's the same approach. A wolf's morality, meaning there's no overcomplication going on here. There is alignment with the flow, echoing, embrace the unknown. That is why the wolf's existence, the bear's existence, the lion's existence is so beautiful, because it's an existence of conviction. They are like the apple tree has a conviction about apples. That's why it makes such good apples. That's why the lion is such a good predator, because it is convicted in that dualistic sense. And that is beautiful to see. That is beautiful to watch. The dog is committed in his loyalty. He is committed completely in loving their owner. And it's a beautiful thing to experience. It's a beautiful thing to be around, right? But understand, that's just an expression. That's not the whole. And these lower consciousness creatures, meaning ones that don't build skyscrapers, right, are in a conviction that you can see clearly, and you can see it even more clearly when you're not caught up in it yourself or caught up in one yourself, like the workaholic, like the addicted individual. They have that same kind of conviction in whatever task that they're addicted to, but you see, that's a lower resonance. That's a lower, nothing wrong with it. I'm not chastising it. I'm just saying it only goes so far, right? And so in this sense, then you can see the wisdom in this stupidity, the simplicity, the innocence, the simple morality of the wolf. And why this matters. In Taoism, Wu Wei is practical wisdom. Just like riding a bike, you balance effortlessly once you stop over controlling. In other words, take your mind out of it. The wolf is not thinking about the hunt. He is engaging it. He just knows where to go, knows where to run, anticipates the movement of the prey, right? There's no anticipation in the child. The child is just there, present, going for it, trying to walk. There's a simplicity, there's a simple beauty there that can't be matched. That's why the child is so beautiful, and that's why the kitty is so adorable, right? And so these structures, ideas, simplicity, kitten, wolf, child, all this kind of stuff, are not over controlling of life. They are right there engaging it and doing it, but they're not tied up in it. You see, this builds on the idea of the Tao's swan, dark mystery from the previous slide. True insight comes from according to the way, just being yourself, being authentic in who you are, just like the child, just like the kitten, just like the wolf, not the conquest of it. Right? The wolf is in the hunt. He's not trying to conquest anything. He's in the hunt. He's doing what wolves do, in the same way the apple tree is doing what apples do, or an apple tree does. Right? The same thing with the kids. They're doing what kids do. And this is beautiful. This in awareness of the deeper sense is a beautiful thing. And this is where the Tao is so wonderful, in that it recognizes these lower states of consciousness as beautiful. It's like, but whereas when you're in a particular denomination of your belief, you don't see the beauty in these other denominations that think differently than you. You see them as enemies. You see them as, hey, that's not the truth. Do you see the difference in conviction then? You see the beauty in a child, but yet the Christian can't see the beauty in a person who is a full-on atheist, right? Because they don't believe correctly. Sure, they appreciate them as a person. Sure, they love them and so on and so forth. But you see, there's that differentiation, that unequally yoked stigma that is in the mind of the Christian that keeps them from the place of the child, the kitten, the wolf. Ties them in. You see, they're tied up in that belief, and that separates. That separates. And so what Alan is showing us here is there's just this beauty and this simplicity. He calls it stupidity. I just don't like that term, but that's what he calls it. Okay. Linking to spontaneous decision-making. Read first. We saw that the I Ching, earlier we saw this, had given the Chinese mind some experience in arriving at decisions spontaneously. These are a bit small words. I'll make it larger for now. Which are effective to the degree that one knows how to let one's mind alone, trusting it to work by itself. This is Wu Wei. See, trusting the mind to work for itself. Since Wu means not or non, and Wei means action, making, doing, non-action. In other words, intention without intention. Here we go again. Intention without intention. No striving, no trying, being in the way of itself. So to return to the illustration of eyesight, the peripheral vision works most effectively as in the dark, when we see out of the corners of our eyes and do not look at things directly. I'm going to elucidate that in a minute here. Similarly, when we need to see the details of a distant object, such as a clock, the eyes must be relaxed, not staring intently, not trying to see, right? You can't try to see. You see or you don't. There's no try. You're seeing or you don't. So too, no amount of working with muscles of the mouth and tongue will enable us to taste our food more acutely. The eyes and the tongue must be trusted to work for themselves, you see, for themselves. And this is the Tao. The I Ching is an ancient oracle used for divination, which encourages intuitive, non-rational decisions, interpreting hexagrams without forcing outcomes. Wu Wei is about letting the mind alone, trusting subconscious processing, right? That undergirding flow that knows, self-organizes. Your body breathes without instruction. Do you not? Do you not? You breathe without instruction. You walk without trying. Do you not? Do you try to walk, or do you just walk? That's the Tao, folks. No mind, yet you're walking. You didn't put any mind to it. You thought, hey, I want to go in the kitchen, get something to eat. And you stood up and walked. You didn't think, okay, now I got to strengthen my muscles here in my legs. And I got to push up on my arms so I can get up. And then I got to put one foot in front of the... You see, you're not doing that. This clues you into what it's like to living life in cohesion with the Tao. You're not thinking about it. Think of in Christianity, you're always thinking and fidgeting with it. You're always fidgeting with the religion, always fidgeting with that relationship. And the whole idea of the Tao is the opposite. You are in the act of release. You are in the act of spontaneity. In other words, there is no act, there is no try, there is no plan. Do you see? So here, walking without trying, you speak without effort. Wei implies contrived, and here it's key. Contrived effort. So Wu Wei is action without strain, doing by not doing. This mirrors the Tao's non-knowing production of the universe from slide 7 that we looked at earlier. This spontaneous creativity, rolling in a flow state where thinking blocks inspirational circulation. Do you see? This is why I can't do my videos with a big outline that gives me just the major points. because there's no flow there. My lectures are a dialogue. There's not a point by point. We are walking through a space, and we are just mentally looking at portions and considering portions as we walk through the space. There's no path. We're just simply walking into this open space called the Tao, so that there's no inspirational blockage in our circulation. You see? So this way implies contrived. In other words, you're not trying. This is why when you try to be compassionate, when you try to be virtuous, it's inauthentic. And the recipient of that behavior will see your inauthenticity. They will see it, because we as humans are very good at knowing if someone is giving us a bunch of crap or if they're giving us their heart. We're really good at sensitizing that. And those that are even more sensitive will know that this is how you see right through people. This is why when you get around the used car salesman, he's going through those lines and those funny little anecdotes that he says here and there, and you know this guy's done it 100 times with 100 other customers, you're just next in line. You know the whole thing is inauthentic. You know it is. It's a show. It's a show. There's nothing true there. It's the same thing when it comes to the rules and regs of quote unquote spirituality. You know, they got the little jokes, they got the little one-liners the pastor does, and they got all the rules and regs. They've been there, done that. They're giving sermons every Sunday on this one path, this one set way. And so over time, it becomes inauthentic because you see right through the show. You see that this isn't real. It's contrived. And so this is why the Tao is focused on Wu Wei, that inspiration which doesn't come from that which is contrived, but comes from that which is unknown. Spontaneity. Here we are again. Forcing your gaze, example, not to follow the listener, remain authentic. I'll get to that in a minute. Forcing your gaze, staring directly, this misses the show. You see, but relaxing into the peripheral vision reveals more, especially low light. And this is the example of when you're looking for something in the dark. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're looking for something in the dark, if what you're looking for, you don't look directly at it, but you put it at the corner. So like I want to look at this space right there, but I don't want to look directly at it. So I look just a little bit of a way, and I can kind of see that space out of the peripheral of my eye. And what Alan is suggesting here is it's the same thing with spirituality. It's not what you're directly looking at that's going to give you the big whammy. It's the stuff that's in the peripheral. It's the stuff that's not on the page. It's the stuff that is past the veil. That's where the juice is going to be found. You're not going to find it in the words. You're not going to find it in the quote unquote image, the form. You're going to find it past the form, past the words, past the image. This is where the juice is, because it doesn't fit into words. The wonder doesn't fit into words. It doesn't fit into concepts. You can just get ideas. So this is honoring that. The Tao is honoring that mentally. This is the non-graspingness, not clinging to ideas or forcing understanding. Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi praise this quote unquote stupidity as actually wisdom. Here's the antithetical, as actually wisdom. A mind unburdened. See? Unburdened by attachment. Is the child burdened? Nope. Is the kitten burdened? Nope. See? A mind unburdened by attachments, open to reality as it is. Key. This is about presence without possession. Please reiterate that in your mind repeatedly in your meditation. It is about presence without possession. Do not try and own it. Let go. Presence without possession. What a good concept. Overview of Wu Wei, effortless action versus strenuous faith. Read first. But when we have learned to put excessive reliance upon central vision, upon the sharp spotlight of the eyes and mind, we cannot regain the powers of peripheral vision unless the sharp and staring kind of sight is first relaxed. Do you see the wisdom? Do you see it? It's right there in front of you. The mental or psychological equivalent of this is the special kind of stupidity to which Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi often refer. It is not simply calmness of mind, but non-grasping of mind And again, not grasping, not because you're thinking, I don't want to grasp, but because it never occurs to you to grasp. There's a big difference. One is holding the ball, one is behind the ball. Do you see? For spiritual liberation, moksha in Eastern terms, or salvation in Western, Taoism Zen offers release through non-grasping, like Christianity's calls to strive and fight the good fight. You see, it's not like that. Christianity is calling you to strive and fight the good fight, and the Tao is saying release. Fighting leads to more conflict, guilt, moral exhaustion, and the dominator, as in the God-Tao contrast. Exactly. Zen's no mind, Mushin, aligns with a beginner's mind. Empty of preconceptions. There's the beauty and stupidity right there. Empty of preconceptions, no will, no plan, authentically present, and giving of oneself. This is the truth. Allowing authentic experience. That's how you have authentic experience. And authentic experience is the only experience that's going to teach you. It's going to show you the truth. You see, the authentic real thing, reiterating prior concepts, continuing. This builds on the Tao's nurturing without dominating, contrasting the Western God's control weighted against the value of the unknown. I mean, think of how much more valuable life becomes. Think of this when it is an unknown. Think of that. When you don't know, think of how much more you want something or want to know something than when you don't know. When you find something that you're curious about, when that curiosity launches in the mind, you can hardly keep yourself away from it. And it doesn't matter if it's a tool project. It doesn't matter if it's another person. It doesn't matter if it's someplace you want to go. You see, you want to know that and you will pursue it. Folks, this is your heart. This is when you clue into your heart. When you find something, you don't really know why you like it, want it, need it, want to learn it, all that stuff. When you find something that tantalizes you, that is your heart. Go there. Go there. It's exactly what drew me to my wife. Just the sight of her was tantalizing. I went there. I gave myself to that, you see. And it's the same thing with your hobbies. For some reason you like to make little model trains, or for some reason you love teaching kids that have mental dysfunctions, like for some reason you love to help people who are sick, right? So pursue vocations that help people that are sick. You see, pursue that where the heart calls you. And this is the great unknown. But that is where fulfillment is going to be found. This builds on the Tao's nurturing without dominating, contrasting the Western God's control weighted against the value of the unknown. In Allen's view, Wu Wei dissolves ego clutching, the fantasy of control, leading to a laughing acceptance of the way things are. Its practicality is obvious. In therapy, now follow the examples I wrote. In therapy, it's a mindlessness that reduces anxiety, right? This is the mushroom trip, a mindlessness that reduces anxiety. Why? Because you're losing all of the caricatures, the conventions that fill your mind. So by moving into a mindless state, you reduce the anxieties that minded state generated. In other words, it's all you. There's no one to blame. There's no finger to point. It's on you. And this is beautiful because it's your own self-responsibility that gets you out of the situation. And that's beautiful because that builds your character, that builds your discernment, that gives you memories of, hey, I did the hard thing and this is what I learned from it. This is gold. This is experiential gold. In creativity, it's trusting intuition over force. Can you force the painter and get an authentic painting out of them? Nope. Can you force the singer and get an authentic music out of them? No. Can you force the musician and get an authentic musicianship, playmanship out of them? No. Has to come from their heart, because the heart is determining what is going to come out of that instrument. Your mind isn't. Your heart is determining what is coming out of that instrument. It's a translator of the heart. That's what an instrument is. It translates art. Your heart doesn't speak in words. It speaks through music. It speaks through experiences, right? And so when you learn an instrument and become proficient at it, it's not your mind that's conveying this to the world. It's your heart. Your brain is just giving the heart access to emanating the sound, but the sound itself, the origin of it and where it's sourcing from, that's coming straight from within you. The instrument is just an extension of your body, just like your voice is an extension of your throat. Same thing. Same thing. In summary, Wu Wei is the art of harmonious living by not interfering with the natural process, especially your mind. Do you see? Don't interfere. It invites a playful, humble approach to life, an approach that is not knowing, contrasting effortful Western paradigms with Eastern spontaneity. And there it is again. This teases a true wisdom. Here's key: a true wisdom relative to you. That's why you follow your bliss. You don't follow the master's bliss. You follow your bliss, because the master's bliss leads the master to bliss, not you. You have your own path. You have your own experiences. You have your own pains. You have your own sensitivity. And all of these factors will determine whatever path you end up walking. It's not something you decide. It's something that comes out. Same with music. It's not something you're deciding. It's something that you are participating in, like the dancers. They're not going anywhere. They are participating in the Tao, the flow, the dance. And what these slides are attempting to do is to get you to see that just in your everyday waking life, day to day. That's that 2 inches off the ground that the enlightened one experiences. It's the everyday, but you're 2 inches off the ground. So every experience is a wonder. Every experience, you're not on ground. You're in a wonder, and you're living in that sense. Yeah, that's what this is pointing towards. What's the next slide? No mind, Shin, and spontaneous virtue. Let's read this and then go to questions. Let's read this. Page 20. Now, I'll read this at the top first. Watts delves into advanced Taoist and Zen concepts on this page. So, Wushin, no mind or non-mind. Shin, often translated as the heart mind or the innate core of awareness. And De, which we're going to spend a lot of time on next week, is virtue or power that arises naturally. You see, when I'm teasing that out of me, it is arising naturally. So here, the perfect man employs, top right, the perfect man employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, but also refuses nothing. You ever had a mirror that refuses to reflect? No, it reflects what is in front of it. And this is to be the mind that grasps nothing. No interference. Remember I said earlier, no interference. It receives but does not keep, right? Have the experience, but don't keep it. Don't hang on to it. Turn it into sorrow. One might almost say that it fuzzes itself a little to compensate for too harsh of a clarity. Thus, Lao Tzu says of himself, and he goes into some poetry there. So we are pointing again towards this virtuous, this wondrous state, and building on the concept of Wu Wei's non-action. Watts describes a state of effortless, unself-conscious living where true intelligence and virtue emerge without force, because they can't be forced. Just like you cannot tell your heart to love, you cannot force virtue. Virtue, when you say, okay, I'm going to be nice to that person because that's what the Bible tells me to do, that is not virtue. That's obedience. That is not virtue. And what we are pursuing here is not obedience. We are pursuing virtue. Is not a commanded act. Why can't I get these buttons right? The virtuous act is not a commanded act. It comes out of you. It's not commanded. True virtue, true compassion. You're not thinking about it. You can't help yourself. It's not, wow, that person is really in tough shape. What are some things? Let's see. So they need this, that, and the other. No, the compassionate person immediately responds to that individual. We had a gal call in Zoom this week, and she was filled with anxiety, and she was really troubled. She was really troubled. And so the compassionate act is, once she stopped sharing where she was feeling anxious, I immediately began to render to her, in the very words that she gave me, a deeper truth and insight that would release her from the anxiety. And it's not special woo-woo stuff. Hey, you got to just pray this prayer. You're going to be okay. Or you just need to find Jesus, and then you're going to be like, no, man. No, it's very matter of fact, very loving, very nurturing and caring approach that was offered to her, not just by me, but by everyone in the group. There was no path. There's no set way. There's no set of standards, whatever, to tell. It's simply reflecting back to her those anxieties and how she can see those anxieties different, so that the world is larger than the one that's keeping her anxious. And by leaving that one that is keeping her anxious, you see, she frees herself. No one saved her. I didn't save her. No one in the group saved her. She saved herself by having a deeper realization that came out of the group. That is Tao in action. That is flow in action. No plan, no set way, no blueprint. We're sharing our lives, integrating our lives, and seeing a beautiful, more larger life just by shining light on one another. That's the way of the Tao. That's the way of the Tao. And that's what this poetry is rendering here. Where were we? Here. It's not about becoming mindless and dumb, but trusting the natural, spontaneous functioning of the mind, absent ego control. This contrasts sharply with the Christian's view that patently distrust human nature as a fallen, sinful creature requiring constant, vigilant, spiritual fidgeting to realize appropriate behavior. And that's what the Christian is doing, are they not? They're asking Christ forgiveness. They're asking Christ for strength to do the right thing. They're asking God to bless their endeavors. They're asking God to put up a hedge of protection around them. You see, this is spiritual fidgeting. Constant, vigilant, spiritual fidgeting. And the reason the person does that is that they have been abused into the idea that they're a sinner. It's not in them, so they got to fidget. You got to find those answers, man, and those answers have to be absolute, because there's a problem here. You see, this causes the person to try and find constantly answers, fixations to fix their situation, because they're in trouble. They're a sinner, prone to wander, prone to fall, prone to leave the God they love, and they sing about that every Sunday. They are in the program. They are in the program. You see? And so this here, reading this, renders to you that you are fidgeting. It's like the codependent that finds out from their counselor in real time examples of how they're being and acting as a codependent, and the person is sitting there in counseling, because it happened to me, because I was a codependent, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, like they're telling me exactly my dysfunctions. And they're giving me illustrations, just like I do here with Christianity. They're giving me illustrations that show me that I am acting in a dysfunctional way. And that is exactly what I'm doing here when you see that you're fidgeting. A constant, vigilant fidgeting with your spirituality. And this is the Christians seeing this, and they're like, that's true, I do. That's true. I'm always asking permission. I'm always seeking approval. I'm always expecting reproof. I am living in the mind of a slave. This is what happens when the Christian reads these words right here, if they're able to face the truth, because that is what they're actually doing psychologically. That's why psychology can so quickly free you from religion. This sharply contrasts the ideas of Wusen, Shin, and De, which indulge the antithetical notion of release over fidgeting. You see, the Tao is the antithesis of the fidgeter. The Tao is releasing, leaving the farm. You're leaving. There's no fidgeting to stay. You're bailing. Release promotes a liberating attitude vector that omits all the sin atonement nonsense. This champions a harmonious, guilt-free existence. Imagine that, through a virtuous attitude towards oneself, life, and others. And this is why, my friend, it is so important to see that you are part and parcel a manifestation of perfection In the same way the cloud never makes a mistake, rain never makes a mistake, the thunderclap never makes a mistake, it's the same thing with your life. That lightning bolt may cause a fire, but that's not sin. That's not an issue. That's part and parcel to lightning. You might make some poor decisions and harm some people. That's not sin. That's simply learning to make better decisions through the pain you cause others and yourself. Welcome to growing up. Welcome to normalcy. There's nothing wrong. You are a whole being. You have as much evil in you as you have good. They are in equal proportions, and it is simply a matter of your attitude, your perspective, that determines which is going to manifest. In other words, you are responsible. You determine which manifests based on your choices, your perspective. It's very simple when you get right down to the nitty-gritty of it, and that's exactly where this slide is pointing. Okay, it's almost 7:30. We should go to chat. Let's see what we got next. Let me see what I got. Okay, we're going to stop on that one. So we'll stop on slide 20. So slide 19 will be our last. Here we go. And then we'll go to comments. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Okay, no mind, shin, and spontaneous virtue. Here, Lao Tzu portrays himself as detached and stupid in appearance, tranquil, like an unsmiling baby or a homeless wanderer, while others chase worldly joys. Cut out cleverness means abandoning over intellectualizing or scheming, which eliminates worries. He finds nourishment in the Tao, the mother symbolizing the nurturing source of all. Many Westerners can relate to that. This isn't depression, but profound peace. By not making signs, forcing expressions or actions, Lao Tzu aligns with the Tao's mystery, Hishuan, the black void of endless opportunity and expansion. And here's the key insight. This illustrates Wuxin, a mind free from deliberate cleverness. You see, the pious individual, the one that loves because they're commanded to love, right? Allowing for natural responses. So you don't want the command to love because that is not the natural response. That's not authentic love. That's what you guys have to understand. When you are telling someone they must love, you are not fostering authentic love. You are fostering inauthentic obedience. This is why you know on the front end, when the Bible says you must love God, you know right there, right at that moment, it's a psyop. Because love doesn't come from choice. It comes from the heart. And I mean, what is Christianity based on? Choosing correctly. Choosing correctly. And if you don't choose correctly, what happens? You go to hell. There's no relationship there. There's no relationship there. It's all about choice, in fact. It's all about belief, in fact. And what do we know about belief? It's anti-faith. Anti-faith. The antithesis of faith is belief. So Christianity is not a faith system, and neither is Islam or Judaism. It's not. It's a social system. It's a convention. It's not authentic. Okay, let's go to questions and see what you guys have to say. Comments. You're welcome. Right on. Welcome, Clintrons. Glad that you're here. Thank you. Hi, Stacy. Welcome, love. Hello. Being free from sin and the why of being nobody and nothing into the realization that you are accountable for yourself and that you are free within yourself. That's it, 100%. That's what breaks you out. Exactly. You got it, Gail Todd. You got it, love. Here. Correct. This is a massive, massive blind spot in Christianity, because every Christian thinks that love is a choice because they choose Jesus, they choose God, they choose the religion. Do you see? And all of that is lies, because love is not a choice. You find it out. You tease it out. It's like if you fall in love with someone that's not that attractive or is not that interested in you, what you render to them is your character, what you render to them is your gifts, and the love that you carry. So that what? So that you will tease love out of them for you. You don't go up to them and say, listen, I find you attractive, or I like you. You are now going to like me. I command you to love me. You must love me, or I'm going to punish you, in fact. You see, that's the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's the basis of the Bible. The beatings will continue until the morale improves. In other words, until you choose to love this, that, or the other, the beatings will continue. The morale will not improve. You see, in this sense, it's a red herring, because love is not a choice. Love is not a choice. It is not a choice. It's something fostered or unfostered, but it is not a choice. All good. Here we go. St. Fresh, the codependent prayer. True that. I just joined the live. Makes total sense. Good deal. Okay. Hi, Bob. One of my favorite guys here. Hi, Chuck. Christianity for me was a good holding pen until I realized it had become my prison in which only I had the key. Yeah, it's really true. It's really true. There are, like I said, like any religion, it doesn't matter if it's Islam, atheism, Christianity, whatever, agnosticism, right? There are perspectives within it. There are ideas within it. There are considerations within it that are helpful and wholesome. But the vast majority of those books operate in the dualistic world for the dualistic world to keep you in the dualistic world. That's why the eternity that those books offer is all good or all bad. It's all heaven or all hell. It's one side or the other. It's because they are locking you. The whole purpose of those institutions is to lock you into dualism, into the institution called dualism. It's where they're oriented. They are social convictions. They're the right-hand path. Those religions are the right-hand path. Do as you're told. Obey. Get in line. Follow the leader. And you didn't come here to do any of that stuff. So yeah, exactly. It's good for a little, but not for a lot. Okay. What is this? Here we go. Hi, Gretchen. Welcome back, love. Another cue for you, Chuck. How does the concept of free will integrate with the way of Zen? Many Christians believe that God's giving us free will means he isn't forcing us to love him or her. Will is a notion or convention. The idea that that God has a will is very destructive to the idea of God. Because even the God of spring does not know how the spring comes about. The God of spring can't tell you that. And the Tao of the universe cannot tell you the way or have any kind of will. It's a flow. Will is incongruent with the Tao. There's no will in the Tao. Like there's a will of God in the West. That points to determinism. That points to a telos. Remember, the Tao is flowing. It has no destination. But the God of the Bible does. That destination is the tribulation and what comes thereafter. There is a will in play. In other words, there's no freedom in this world. There's a will in play, and you will join into that will, you see, and that's God's will. You can't question it. Whereas the Tao is a flow. It's something that you join into, but not in the sense of following a path like the West, but simply moving into the flow like the kayaker in the rapids. He doesn't know exactly what side of the rapids, where he's going to be, and exactly when. He's just in the flow, and he's going to go with it. So sometimes it's going to go here, sometimes it's going to go there, sometimes it's going to be in the middle, sometimes he's going fast, sometimes he's going slow, sometimes he's sinking, sometimes he's floating. There's no will. It's the way. It's what it is. There's no will being carried out. Like if he dies, there wasn't, well, God's will had it for him to die at the end of those. No, man. No, you're in a space of freedom. He died simply from a lack of poor choices, insight, perspective, whatever the case may be. It's on him. There was no will imposing or impinging on him, dooming him to die. It came about because of too many poor decisions or bad planning or whatever the case may be. But there's no will in place. He's simply participating. He's joining into the flow. And it's the same thing with the Tao. There's no guarantee. Nature is risky. Nature's risky. There's no guarantee. And remember, nature's merciless. So you make a mistake, you're going to pay the consequences. Nature is like a wolf. There's no looking back. You know, the wake follows the boat. You're not choosing the wake or when it's going to hit or how big it's going to be. That wake is coming. Simply the path you've been on determines it. Okay, but there's no will in play. So there's no will for the people. There's no plan for the people. We are in an organic process. That's why it's important for each of us to awaken in the Great Awakening, and we determine the speed at which the awakening happens. Because there's no plan. It's simply awakening. When are you going to awaken? When is the collective going to awaken? Well, the collective decides that. When is the enabler no longer going to enable their alcoholic husband or wife? Who knows? They'll have to come to that decision on their own. They'll have to figure it out. There's no will. There's no plan. They're just living life. And when they figure it out, they'll leave. And it's the same thing with the Great Awakening. They are not, whoever is instigating this thing is not going to determine when the flip happens, when society finally figures it out. They're just presenting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for you to wake up. And it's simply a matter of your sensitivity. When you become sensitive enough, how many times I've told you guys how important sensitivity is. When you become sensitive enough to see the underlying current, that can be found in the patterns of the news, the patterns of the truth seekers, the patterns of the financial system and what it's doing. And simply seeing these patterns to clue in to where we're at in the changeover. But when that's going to happen, how it happens, nobody knows. But we determine the timeline. You ever thought about that? We determine the timeline by how quickly we wake up. The faster the flip happens. When do we reach 88 miles per hour is the question. You know, who knows? That's why what I'm doing here and why I'm so motivated to do what I'm doing here is because this is one of the most important things we can be doing as a collective is shining light, a larger, brighter light than the one that the world handed everyone, because the world isn't what we were handed. And so it's simply a matter of when people come to the realization, oh, it's on me. I got to wake up. I got to shine light to others. I have to be that source and render this to the world, because that's the only way the human collective is going to wake up. And until we wake up, they're going to continue showing us sign after sign after sign after sign of the corruption. When are you guys going to actually do something about it? You know, and that way is what is working out right now. And there is no path. It is simply markers as we walk. Hey, did you notice that? Hey, did you ever find out what was going on that island? Hey, did you ever find out what Obamacare was really about? Hey, did you ever find out why they instigated the Patriot Act? Hey, did you ever figure out why they opened the borders and let anybody through and give everyone money and social security numbers and jobs that didn't qualify? Find out why they're lying to you. Find out the truth behind the truth. Meaning the one that was handed to you by the KM, which is all the news media. And there's a lot of truthers out there that are actually bought and sold down the river, and you can see them every day on X. You have to become discerning. You have to be able to see past the ones that I know this guy or this gal's the one, or they got the information. You have to be so careful now. It's up to us. And the more we stumble along, the longer we take to turn over, the more we hold, the more we grip, the more we insist. You see, the more we stumble, the longer it's going to take, man. This is like raising a child. It is the long haul. It's the long haul. It's like being a professor in a class. Every single person counts. Nobody gets left behind. And it's the same thing with the Great Awakening. Nobody gets left behind. We must awaken. Very good question there, Gretchen. Let's try another one. Okay. This is good here, Twilight Mist. This is good here. I feel like a lot of people only spontaneously love when they come across animals or children freely express themselves. I'm gonna stop right there. I haven't read the rest of what you said. I just want to focus right here. Come across animals and children freely express. Why is that? Here's the key. Why is it that we immediately remove all our barriers, and when we see that little kitten, we see that little puppy dog, right? Or you see the bumbling little baby? Why is it that all of our defenses just completely fall down? Truth and trust. Truth and trust. You know that child's not going to deceive you. You know that little kitten's going to be kind and that puppy's going to adore you, right? And so all the barriers that keep your spontaneity from coming out are removed, so your heart flows. This is so key to understanding how you live in the Tao constantly. The point of the Tao, the point of Zen, is to feel that way, be that way every time you're around any person, so that your love and spontaneity comes out just as quickly as it does for the little puppy, the little kitten, the bumbling little baby boy or girl, whatever. It just comes out. And this is what the Tao is pointing towards. This is a very good point here. This is exactly the kind of openness, freedom, commitment, compassion, character that the Tao is pointing towards. It's like we've been crippled in our love capacity as a society. And yes, we have. Have we not? Because we have learned to identify through that which is external rather than identifying through ourselves here, where the heart is, where all the compassion is. We've been under the psyop that the heart is dirty, that you're sinful, that you can't be trusted. It's a psyop. And this is how it degrades society. This is how it separates society, destroys people from the inside out, because they don't realize who they are. They don't realize that they are omniscience incarnated. Truly. What is Mama? Anything less than omniscience? Of course she's omniscient. She makes eternity in her stomach. She creates it with Dad. Dad has the power inside him too. He's got a cell that's necessary for this perfection to manifest. These people are perfection. They're bringing about eternity, you see, and it's our inhumane view of ourselves that's been handed to us by science that calls us dirty carbon generators, right? That's been handed to us by the church, which calls us sinners. That's been handed to us by evolution, which says you're a mistake, chance happening, pal. There's no value to be found. You're just another thing. Do you see? Degrading perspectives of one's identity is how you begin to get a society that self-desecrates, that destroys themselves and separates from others and hates. It's because they have become so far off the center because they've bought the lies. They've bought the idea that something's wrong with you, that the world is a fallen enterprise with no hope. And this perspective must be changed. It must be changed. If the world is to change, our perspective of it must change first, because it's not the world that has to change. It's our perspective. This world, this is the quote from Campbell, this world, with all its ills, with all its sorrows, with all its stupidities, is the golden lotus world right now as it is. And if you cannot see it as such, that is not the world's fault. What must be changed is not the world, but your perspective of it. One of the greatest quotes ever by Campbell. Your perspective is what must change, your attitude. It takes a big individual to see past the effrontery that we see every day. Flow speaks to me better than will. Thanks, you betcha. Yeah, will is a purposed plan. It's an instruction. It's a set. And we are in a wonder. There is no plan. There are no instructions. You simply experience. You are in a free state. Here we are. I'm so happy I'm getting this. It's as if the time is perfect to learn all this right now. Heck yeah, known by heart. Heck yeah. Thank you for your encouragement, friend. That's a very wonderful post. And I love your freaking dog, man. That is a great looking dog. Heck yeah. I miss my dog so much. Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we are. Hi, Maddie. I don't understand how to deconstruct from Christianity, from Christian religion, but still believe that satanic cults run the world. How can you believe in one and not the other? Just trying to learn. Okay, because the world, Maddie, is not just one or the other. The universe isn't in competition with itself. There's not all the good guys and all the bad guys, and they're all fighting it out, and winner takes all. The universe isn't that stupid. It's not that simple. It is not a dualistic construction. There is no conflict. This is the first key. Life is contrastive. It's contrasts of the same whole. Okay? The holism, is composed of good and evil. That's why you have just as much evil in you as you have good. These are called potential. And because you have limitless potential, you have limitless potential for evil and limitless potential for good. That's why you have just as much potential to become Bach as you do to become Hitler. You have just as much potential for each equally, and we all have it in us. All of us. Okay? So there's nothing wrong. This is how holism manifests, is through this dualistic good and evil, in and out, up and down sense. And through understanding through that sense, you see, you only get so much of the actual universal picture, which is much larger than dualism, much larger than good and evil. Okay? And so if you are wanting to leave the Christian doctrine, you have to change your perspective, your psychology, your identity, because these determine your thoughts and opinions about yourself. So you will not change your thoughts and opinions about yourself until you change your perspective of yourself. And that requires you to leave the farm. This is the hard part. This is what people don't want to do. They want a great awakening that's just a glorified Christian version, or glorified Islamic version, or glorified scientific atheistic version. And they think the great awakening is that. One of those wins, because we're in a win-or-loser thing here. Somebody's got to win. You see, dualism. We're caught in cons. And so the person assumes, they think, one of those is the winner. I got to pick the right one. And that's a red herring. That's an illusion, because life doesn't fit in any one system of belief. It doesn't fit in a social system. It's not a social institution. That's not nature. And so when you try and understand, integrate, and learn and grow in a convention, you only grow as far as the convention will allow you. In other words, the world the Bible hands you, the world Allah hands you, the world Yahweh hands you. You see, and if you subscribe to one of those conventions, that becomes your perspective and world, because you have learned your opinions, you have learned your convictions from that delivered to you by the society. But you are not a social institution. You're a nature creature. So a society is only going to be able to get you so far. The pictures from the Bible, the pictures from Allah, they're only going to get you so far. And it's not going to be very, very far, because duality is an illusion. And the true world, the spiritual world, is past any kind of illusion. You essentially are living in a hallucination. That's what you're living in right now. And in order to wake from the hallucination requires change of perspective, catastrophe, change of mind, change of identity, knowing who you are from a perspective that isn't from the Christian side, but understanding who you are, a perspective that comes out of this holism that I have been pointing at for years now, that this series is filled with. Tell you what, if you're having a hard time with leaving Christianity and so forth, there's a few videos you can watch that will help. First of all, I've got some videos in my video section on my YouTube page called The Egregore. It's called something of Egregore, Mountains of Egregore, something of Egregore. What is it called? But Fathoms of Egregore, parts 1 and 2. Watch those 2 videos. If you're a struggling Christian and you're like, Chuck, man, I just can't do this kind of thing. Like, you're talking about release. You're talking about leaving. Like, Jesus is my hub, man. Jesus is the dude. He's my guy. You can't be saying that I got to leave that in order to understand. And I'm simply communicating, okay, listen, if you want to grow and you want to grow past that idea you just told me of how important Jesus is to you and so on and so forth, if you want to grow past that, live past that, watch the Egregore series. I have another video called Oriented to Conflict. It's also in my videos on my YouTube page. Watch that. And then after you watch those 3 videos, then start watching the Zen series here that I'm doing right now. Because it is all about release. It is all about abandoning the way it has always been for you. Okay? And that will be initiated. And really, I'm saying this. Who wrote me this? Here. Maddie, please come back. Please come back to chat or come to Zoom. Contact me and come to Zoom. And please tell me about your progression after you saw my videos. You know, I genuinely want to know your perspective, and I'm sure many others here would love to hear your perspective. And I think that by watching those videos while you're driving to work, while you're out exercising one afternoon, while you're doing chores around the house, just throw them in the headphones, my lectures in the headphones, and you don't have to watch the visual. Do your own life, live your life, do what you got to do, but have me in your ears talking. This is how I broke from it. And I listened to Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna and Joseph Campbell over and over and over again. Same lectures. Some of their lectures I listened to over 300 times. One lecture over much more than 300 times. And not just one, many. Virtually every lecture from Alan Watts, Terrence McKenna, and Joseph Campbell, I've heard at least 10 times, because I don't listen to any one lecture one time, ever, because you never get it all in one lecture. Never. Especially dudes that are that turned on, like Watts and Campbell and McKenna. Like, those guys are so next level that it takes a while to even comprehend the words that they are saying. I can't tell you how many times I started listening to Alan Watts and I'm like, okay, what is he saying? I mean, that I'm shining the sun. Like, what does that even freaking mean, that I'm shining the sun? Like, what? It took me hearing that lecture probably 25, 30 times before it started sinking in. And that is simply because of my indoctrination, that I had been raised in Christianity from the time I could think, which was about age 3 or 4. That's all I knew. That is the only world I knew for 40 years. And I was convicted. I was all in, man. All in. And so in order to break out of that, it just took repeated. It's like breaking concrete, man. One sledgehammer hit ain't going to break the concrete, man. You're going to have to hit it again. And you're going to have to haul out some pieces so that you can then break some other ones that are even bigger down deep. That is exactly the way your mind is. Exactly. And you have to take a sledgehammer to that thing and repeatedly strike it, meaning your convictions, your faith, which are really your beliefs. And beliefs don't give up easy. Nah, they're the Alamo, baby. They ain't going down without swinging. Your beliefs are going to stay with you, and you are going to have to fight them. I'm not kidding. It is psychological warfare, because you are trying to see spaces your entire life have been told those are lies. Those will lead you astray. The devil is hiding in that backyard. You are just asking for it. And so you're given one warning after another. And so you just never leave. You never leave the farm. You never leave the farm. You stay in the social institution. And you're like, well, it's close enough. I'll just die Christian and we're all good. Do you see how it happens? So it requires dedication, pursuit, commitment. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, it does. Yeah, thank you. Please hit the like button. Thank you, King. Thank you so much, buddy. guys got any other final questions as we're about to leave? Yeah, nobody likes an alarm clock. That's exactly right. One last question before we call it a night. What a great night it's been. You guys enjoyed this? We got through a lot of slides. How many slides we get to? Let's see. We got through about 18 slides. That's fantastic. I came in with about 44. So maybe we'll finish next week on chapter 1. I'm not sure, but getting pretty close. Nice. That's so cool. Nice. Watching the sunset rise while listening to some great Zen information. That's a good time right there. Okay. Any questions? Nobody's got caps. You're all good. You guys look great, man. I'm not seeing any questions. This is good. Are we waiting for the NPCs also? Nope. Non-player characters are goners. Non-player characters are goners. A non-player character would be my folks. They'll never leave Christianity. They'll never leave the setting. Yeah, they're just playing the Christian character. There's no real human there. There's a Christian there, and they want it that way. That's what my dad wants. That's what my mom wants. All love to them. No judgment. None of that stuff. It's the Great Awakening isn't for everyone. It's not, and it's not for my folks. The Great Awakening is not for my parents. They're not interested in it because they just want a Great Awakening that's just a glorified Jesus world. That's what they want. They're not interested in any world that is about unity and uniting with everyone and everyone believes what they want. No. The Great Awakening to the true Christian is everyone becomes a Christian. Everyone becomes a Christian. The Great Awakening to the Islamist is everyone becomes an Islamist. Yep. Everyone bows to Allah. That's the awakening to the true Islamist. The Jew, everyone becomes a Jew or converts. That's their Great Awakening. They're not interested in all the public saving, all that kind of stuff. No. It's about everybody converts to what we think and how we think. That's an NPC. So as far as I'm concerned, the truly hardcore, religiously devout that have no intention of ever being in a world without Jesus or Allah, they're nah. I guess you would have to have it so bad that they would flip, but I mean it's so bad right now. I mean the amount of people that are dying every day from ignorance who are doing as they're told. I mean it's nothing beyond tragic. Okay, 2 minutes left. I'm going to just go straight to the bottom. I'll just go straight to the bottom. Yeah, I hope so, King. I want everyone to snap out of it. If my choice, then everyone will snap out of it, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah, in many ways they aren't. Very true. In many ways they aren't, are they? Very true. Very true. Very insightful comment there. Thank you for that. Yeah. That is my thought for the NPCs. That is my thought. A solar flash. I've done read up on gamma rays and how they affect the brain, and the solar flash would actually do it. It would have an effect similar to hitting DMT or 5-MeO. Yeah, and that would do it. That would do it. Okay, we got to wrap it up, guys. It is 8:00. Love you guys so much. Thanks for being here tonight. I hope you had a good time. I hope you like the new digs. Isn't this great? And then I got the swag and stuff coming up. T-shirts will be available soon. I'll let you know when they are. Stacy and I are on it. Stacy is Wonder Woman, dude. So I'm really happy and excited, and she's going to get the job done. I'm really excited. I'm going to play the Zen, the Alan Watts video that I played at the beginning of this to send you guys out and on your way because it's so awesome of a video. And yes, thank you for noticing. I love my tannoys. I've had them forever. They sat in my garage forever, and I polished them. I actually took the speakers out, waxed them up for the new digs. I was so excited to have them. They need to be reconed. They don't sound good very much anymore because they all need to be reconed. But I'll get to it. But aren't they just beautiful? They are so beautiful. I got them. My folks got them used from a gal that had purchased them about 10 years before I got them, and they were mint cherry. As you can see, they were mint cherry condition. And so for really cheap, my parents were able to get them for me, and they gave them to me for my birthday when I was in my 30s, my early 30s. I will never, ever sell them. They are wonderful. They're like having an instrument. I'm so excited. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate that when someone notices that stuff. Pablo, be on the lookout for the Formula One NFL Zoom that I'm going to be starting here next week. You guys look on I'm going to advertise on Facebook and X, I think, and that will get the word out. It'll just be a little Zoom for sports that I'm going to do once or twice, 2 times, 3 times a year. And so Pablo, be on the lookout for that. It'll be a fun way for us to develop some camaraderie between us and between me and the chat. So that would be awesome. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. This is greatness. Okay, here's Alan to send us off. I will see you guys next week.
This seminar, called Inevitable Ecstasy, is about a very sticky problem, which is to say, the problem to which the Buddha primarily addressed himself, which is that of agony, suffering. But before we get into that, we have to be clear about certain basics. And these basics have to do not so much with concepts and ideas as they do with a state of mind, a state of sensation, a state of consciousness. And we need to understand that, even be in that, before we can really go very far. And this is an extraordinarily difficult state of mind to talk about, even though in its nature it's extremely simple. Because it is in a way like we were when we were babies, when we hadn't been told anything and didn't know anything other than what we felt, and we had no names for it. Now, of course, as we grow older, we learn to differentiate one thing from another, one event from another, and above all, ourselves from everything else. Well and good, provided you don't lose the foundations. Just as mountains are differentiated, but they're all based on the earth, so the multiple things of this world are differentiated. But they have, as it were, a basis. There is no word for that basis, not really, because words are only for distinction. And so there can't really be a word, not even an idea, of the non-distinction. We can feel it, but we can't think it. But we don't feel it like an object. You feel you're alive. You feel you're conscious, but you don't know what consciousness is, because consciousness is present in every conceivable kind of experience. It's like the space in which we live, which is everywhere. It's like a fish being in water, and presumably a fish doesn't know it's in the water, because it never goes out. A bird presumably knows nothing of the air, and we really know nothing of consciousness, and we pretend space isn't there. So, however, when you grow up and become fascinated, which is really the right word, spellbound, enchanted, by all the things that adults wave at you, you forget the background. And you come to think that all the distinctions which you've been learning are the supremely important things to be concerned with. You become hypnotized. And so when we are told to pay attention to what matters, we get stuck with it, and that's what in Buddhism is called attachment. Attachment doesn't mean that you enjoy your dinner, you enjoy sleeping, or beauty. Those are responses of our organism in its environment, as natural as feeling hot near a fire or cold near ice. So are certain responses of fear or of sorrow. They are not attachment. Attachment is exactly translated by the modern slang term hang-up. It's a kind of stickiness, or what in psychology would be called blocking, when you are in a state of wobbly hesitation, not knowing how to flow on. That's attachment, what is meant by the Sanskrit word klesha. So we get a hang-up on all the various things that we're told as we grow up by our parents, our aunts and uncles, our teachers, by our peer group. And the first thing that everybody wants to tell us is the difference between ourselves and the rest of the world, and between those actions which are voluntary and those which are involuntary, what we do on the one hand and what happens to us on the other. And this is, of course, immensely confusing to a small child, because it's told to do all sorts of things that are really supposed to happen, like going to sleep, like having bowel movements, like loving people, like not blushing, stopping being anxious, and all sorts of things like that. So what happens is this. The child is told in sum that we, your parents, elders and betters, command you to do what will please us only if you do it spontaneously. And no wonder everybody's completely confused. We go through life with that burden on us. We therefore develop this curious thing. We develop a thing which is called an ego. Now I've got to be very clear to you what I mean by an ego. An ego is not the same thing as a particular living organism. For my philosophy, the particular living organism, which is inseparable from a particular environment, that is to say, from the universe as centered here and now, there's something real. It isn't a thing. I call it a feature of the universe. But what we call our ego is something abstract, which is to say, it has the same order and kind of reality as an hour, or an inch, or a pound, or a line of longitude. It is for purposes of discussion. It is for convenience. In other words, it is a social convention that we have what is called an ego. But the fallacy that all of us make is that we treat it as if it were a physical organ, as if it were real in that sense, when in fact it is composed, on the one hand, of our image of ourselves, that is our idea of ourselves, as when we say to somebody, you must improve your image. Now, this image of ourselves is obviously not ourselves, any more than an idea of a tree is a tree, any more than you can get wet in the word water. And to go on with, our image of ourselves is extremely inaccurate and incomplete. So my image of me is not at all your image of me. And my image of me is extremely incomplete in that it does not include any information to speak of about the functioning of my nervous system, my circulation, my metabolism, my subtle relationships with the entire surrounding human and non-human universe. So the image I have of myself is a caricature. It is arrived at through mainly my interaction with other people who tell me who I am in various ways, either directly or indirectly, and I play about with what their picture is of me, and they play something back to me, so that we set up this conception. And this started very, very early in life. And I was told, you see, and you were told, that we must have a consistent image. You must be you. You have to find your identity in terms of image. And this is an awful red herring. A lot of the current quest for identity among younger people is a search for an acceptable image. What role can I play? Who am I in the sense of what am I going to do in life, and so on. Now, while that has a certain importance, if it's not backed up by deeper matters, it's extraordinarily misleading. So therefore, on the one hand, there is this image, which is intellectual, emotional, imaginative, and so forth. Now, we would say, I don't feel that I am only an image. I feel there's something more real than that, because I have a sense of there being a particular sort of, how do we say, a center of something, some sort of sensitive core inside the skin. And that corresponds to the word I.